All right. Well, welcome everybody. We don't have an intro to this show. We probably could have come up with something. Have you ever heard of a NSSF intro or anything? Is there any kind of like jingle music for NSSF?
I don't think so. Uh-uh.
I never have either. I don't know if they just never done that or if they never thought they could. Or anyway, so we're talking about Shot Show each week. This week we're talking about elevator speeches, how to have good conversation, effective conversation at Shot Show. We do this live every Tuesday morning. I don't know if we're going to do it all the way up till Shot Show or not. We've been doing it for quite a few weeks now. Clover is joining us from Texas. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, good to be here.
And sorry for everybody who is watching live for the late start this morning, but thank you all for joining us. We'll say hey to everybody who's joining us live, but um, we didn't really have a chance. Clover and I didn't have a chance to like touch base on this one, so we're both just coming at it unscripted, I guess. But I did do a little bit of prep work in the description of this video because I thought this was a great conversation. This one come from She Fires. This topic.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it was one of the comments she made one of those last weeks on this show. But I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee and let Clover kind of riff on this a little bit, and then uh, we'll dig in. So if anybody wants to, be part of this conversation, that's why we do this live. Feel free to engage that text chat. And when we're talking elevator speeches and effective communication at Shot Show specifically, where does that, where does that, what comes to mind for you, Clover?
Ask one more time. You lost me.
Oh, sorry, I just walked away too. So, as we're talking about elevator speeches, having effective communication at Shot Show, what comes to mind?
Okay. I don't know. I think that one thing is being kind of being laid back. I think being natural about things. That's where it would be the one caveat I think before we jump into a lot of this is rather than having that canned thing. I mean, having a canned elevator speech and all is great, but just because you've got that certain thing memorized doesn't mean that you necessarily relay that information in the same way. Um, you certainly don't want it to come off as if you're just reciting, memorized words. And then I'm sure we're going to jump into it, but every booth you go into, every person, that speech or whatever is going to be a little bit those points or outline or topics or whatever on your in your elevator speech. Maybe the order in which you go through those is a little bit different. It's sort of like the same. I know with me, I don't write a script when I'm doing a video, but I will definitely line out bullet points for a video, right? And sometimes those get shifted around in the course of even filming the video. I'm like, oh, okay, it doesn't make any sense to do this before this other thing. I need to switch these around or whatever, right? And I do that. I do that on the fly pretty often. So um, I would say that take what we talk about today not in the literal like here's a recipe or an instruction sheet and you have to follow this to the absolute T type thing. um, Make sure that you're, like I said, fluid and comfortable and natural with the way that you're talking to these different companies.
I've been kind of looking through some of the comments there, so I wasn't necessarily listening as much as uh, hearing you. So,
Right.
I think I agree that you can't be robotic about it. And I think what came to my mind as you were talking there, though, is just to add like expectations. Nobody owes you nothing. Nobody's necessarily getting
True.
ready for Shot Show to meet you, but they don't know that they're going to meet you either. So there's opportunity there, but expectations. Uh, the whole thing, like you might have to do something 100 times, but that 101st time is the one that pays off. So there's that too. So probably uh, coming up with something that isn't super complicated or long or detailed or specific is better off, because then it's like fishing or something. You're not bringing out your most specific baits right off the bat. You're kind of starting to see, what's going to work in this lake, and then maybe start to worry about the color or the shape of it, but first figure out what type of bait they're even looking for. They're looking for worms or some kind of top
Right.
spinner, or they're looking, so um, maybe having some levels of it too. Having a general conversation, and then let it get more specific as the circumstances evolve.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, because you get those times at Shot Show, and honestly, anything. I mean, it could be GRPC or it could be NRA. It could be any event, but you have those really quick, just like intro, and the introduction is of course part of the whole elevator speech approach.
But you
But
have
oh, we
those
got an echo.
really quick, just like the introduction.
So the thing there is sometimes you have a situation, depending on who it is, you really only have time. You don't even have time for the elevator speech, right? It's just an introduction thing. So um, being able to quickly say who you are, what you do, I think is important, and I think that's a very difficult thing. I'm sure we'll probably dissect that a little bit and dive into it. But when you say, hey, what's up, good morning, whatever, my name's Chris. I'm with Clover Tech Productions, and then you gotta, what do you do, right? That gets tough for some people, right? Do you say you create YouTube videos? Do you say you're a podcaster? Do you say you're an influencer? Like, what if you do? What if you're an all of the above approach? Right? You got to have a way to kind of convey that where people understand that, because each one of those things kind of comes with its own potential baggage. YouTubers is a bad word to a lot of companies. The same way influencers, they may think, influencers, we don't use influencers, we don't need influencers, we don't use influencers. Well, maybe you're not a traditional influencer, right? Or you're not a traditional YouTuber. You don't fit the the what's the way to say that? You don't fit the negative mold, I guess, or whatever the mold that they have in mind.
Well, there's no definition for these things, so it's
Right,
an impression that the other person has. So it's their experience and their attitude, and you can't control that. You can only, I think Ghost said, you can try to read that or something, but you're not gonna affect that. So if you, in other words, some influencer is a word I don't like because it implies some kind of manipulation or something, or it can, or it depends on how you're looking at it, but it implies some kind of hold over people or something, or that you're exploiting some mechanism or something. So but then other people are like, that's for whatever, they went to a business class or something, they got some advice, and someone said look for an influencer. So by using that keyword, they're looking for that keyword. Other people are going to avoid that keyword. So it's one of those things, there's no way to know. So having a selection in your toolbox or in your tackle box, so that you can
right,
adapt to the person. Because if someone's looking for an influencer, then become an influencer. If they don't like the word influencer, then you're going to want to use something else, right?
right,
And that's the thing is, what are you even? Well, I guess that's a bunch of tangents. Neither one of us are necessarily coming up with some curriculum that we're just regurgitating here. We're awfully really just attempting to make SHOT Show more useful for people that haven't been before, and more useful for the people that have been a couple of times and want to get as much out of it. It's a lot of expense, it's a lot of time. It's the one opportunity we have each year for a business interaction with the industry. The other opportunities that we're going to get are going to be much more media focused or much more superficial. This is literally a time when we are all there to talk business, and they assume by being there you're in the business. So that's, you get a little difference at SHOT Show than you would at some of those other shows. But of course, like Clover said, they're essentially the same things, because you got almost the same people there. But again, you bring a bunch of people together for church, that's different than when you bring a bunch of people together to have beers after a game, right? So it could be the same people, but you're having different conversations. There's a different thing going on, right?
right. Yep,
Um,
yep.
we'll let Clover riff a bit. I'm gonna go grab my coffee, and feel free if you're part of this. If you're not just listening, but you want to be part of this, to leave some comments. We'll dig into them. I've already been starring a couple of questions, and it doesn't have to be necessarily on topic. Like I said, we've been doing this for a while, so we can easily take something that's a big separate topic and turn it into a new show if necessary. But Clover, riff on this for a bit, and then I've got the description of this video, some work that I've done trying to figure out what the heck an elevator speech actually is, and I'll just read through that in a bit, and then we can kind of use that as some structure here to dig in for the next bit. But as far as like what I was just saying, like having some awareness of what the person might want, you kind of brought this up, but just to finish it out, I'll go grab some coffee here. Um, the idea that SHOT Shows specifically compared to other shows, and then somebody who's well, I won't keep answering your question for you. So riff on that. I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, just
On
yeah,
just
go
how SHOT
go
Shows
ahead.
specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead and do your stuff, and then I'll riff here for a little bit. Yeah, real quick. Shout out Millstrip Duo, Snobs out there, G23. Who else we got? Ghost is out there, She Fires. I think we've seen some other ones, 500 Magnum Jump In, Chicago Mike, Chris Lang, all out there. So, yeah, if you've got questions, comments, we duh people out there. So, um, yeah, I mean, I guess something not to get too off in the weeds before G gets back, but yeah, there are certain components to your traditional elevator speech. It all starts kind of with that introduction, and so I think Sheepfires out there had said something about, so don't say you're a YouTuber, and Ghost said, yeah, it's kind of assumed. It really is at a lot of these shows. Um, you know, Especially if you have gear, you're carrying around a camera or a tripod or something. Duh, right? Um, and I think that that's one of the big requirements. It's one of the easiest ways that people um, get into shot. I think is through the video medium, and YouTube being the largest video platform. I mean, it's kind of a given. Again, though, that can come with some issues. That can also be a situation where either it comes with some negativity issues from that company standpoint, or it comes from a thing to where that company is they're looking to push from a media, from a marketing standpoint, into some other avenues, right? And so a different approach, as opposed to saying, hey, I'm so and so, and I'm a YouTuber, or I'm so and so, and you know I make YouTube videos, or whatever the case may be. Especially nowadays with so many various platforms out there, you do have people that are 100% YouTube specific, and by being 100, and I'm going to give a gWebs explanation of this, which is going to be kind of long and tedious, and the key is to tailor it down, shorter for yourself. But when you're talking to these companies, YouTube, we know that for a large variety of products, especially if you plan on monetizing your video. If you're talking firearms, ammunition, magazines, sights, scopes, stocks, grips, particularly, that those particular products, it's going to be hard to link in a description, right? So, and a lot of these companies understand that, and they know that, right? So, if it's just YouTube, right? I'm a YouTuber, right? Instead of I'm a video content creator, right? And then that could offer a follow up from them of, oh, okay, well, what are we talking about, right? That piques their interest, because you haven't just gave them this blanket statement that you're a YouTuber, right? That's more of a definitive type statement. I'm a YouTuber, right? It's specific, as opposed to saying I'm a video content creator. And you can say I work a variety of platforms, including YouTube, right? And so a lot of these companies, a lot of these people, they're going to be aware that there's other platforms out there. Full 30, which has become Jukesy, Rumble, Odyssey. I'm trying to think of all the different ones, but there's quite a few. Brighteon, GunTube, GunStreamer, YouTube. There's several out there, right?
I think Gunstreamer's dead.
And so, yeah, for the most part, there's several of them that are that way.
Haven't been able to upload
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks now.
Yeah. I agree. I was just throwing it out there. That can be fixed tomorrow. We don't know, but just throwing it out there that there are alternatives, and with those alternatives comes, and you don't even have to get the reach or the views or anything else that you get on YouTube. I mean, statistically speaking, you're not going to. All right, you're talking
Well,
about the
offering presence is different than
yeah,
hitting reach, right?
yeah. But the thing is, you may only get tens of views as opposed to hundreds of views, right? But the key is you've got tens of views and you're able to actually put a link. So if you're able to actually put a link, you know, you're not going to get any click throughs at all. You've got zero chance of getting that on YouTube. Where okay, you may only have tens of views, but there's at least you create an opportunity on those other platforms, right? So what I'm saying is don't discount that aspect of I upload, I put content on other platforms. That could be an appealing thing, and don't pigeonhole yourself into just the YouTube thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're gonna definitely want to hit that because there's a lot there that when you're just talking YouTuber, I never said that ever. I think that's the lamest thing because it's weak. It's not even anything close to what you are. I don't care who I'm talking to. YouTube is one tiny facet of what you are. So pigeonholing yourself to that is dated because nobody thinks of YouTube as the internet anymore. That was a thing for a minute there, but like Clover said, considering yourself a video creator is much more accurate and much more like I don't want to say vanilla because it's coming up and saying you're with YouTube is kind of not. It's close sighted. It's not far sighted. You could have had someone who hates YouTube or has had a horrible experience on YouTube and walking up and saying you're a YouTuber eliminates any further conversation you're going to ever have with that person. Where if you said I'm a content creator, left it at that, didn't even bring YouTube into the mix, you've you've got more potential of somebody being burned by YouTube at this point than somebody who's overly optimistic about what any YouTuber could do for them. Does that make sense? Like in 2014, you could have run around
Yeah,
saying you're a YouTuber and people would have been all over you. By 2016, if you said you were with YouTube, you might as well have said, "Don't talk to me,"
yeah,
because people got so burned in a couple of years. Now that's over. So that has ended. That kind of interaction introduction to YouTube and the
right.
burning that people got is ended, but the repercussions are still there. So you're going to have some calluses and you're going to have some scars that are still out there, and then you're going to have people that have yet to be scarred, and you could be the one burning them. Like you don't
Mhm.
even know it, but you could easily oversell yourself, like then blow off a bunch of the stuff you oversold. Go on, not even paying attention to it, and you've turned 3 companies or 4 companies off of interacting with YouTubers. And I'm not dooming you to that, but that kind of stuff happens, and people know or don't know that it's even happening.
Yeah.
But I think that's a whole nother thing. I mean, it could literally be a whole nother.
Well, I think with every aspect of, and if you go through, and just Google elevator speeches and look that up, I mean, you'll find a bunch of different places that they give a bunch of different information on, uh, components or sections or things you need, that sort of stuff. And you do have a very good layout in the description here in this video or this live stream G2 that helps
Well,
with
it's
that.
tough. Yeah, I mean, I went to a
But
couple of different courses and
there,
looked at their definitions, but yeah, it's
yeah,
different talking to like a lawyer as a prospective
it
employee
is.
versus
Yeah,
going to SHOT Show versus just meeting somebody on an elevator at an
right,
apple orchard or something.
right.
Like
And
in Nebraska.
a lot of the elevator, a lot of the um, blueprints and stuff you see are also elevator speeches for product, right? And we're more a service than a product. A content creator is, right. So it's a little
Yeah.
bit different. It has to be tweaked a little
It's
bit,
crazy
but
because we're a service that creates products, and our
this is true.
products exist, and we
That's
take that
true.
for granted as content creators too much.
That's true.
But we
Yeah,
create things that'll
yeah,
exist forever unless we decide to
yeah.
shut them down. So they're not just paying you
I
for a
think
comment on a video; they want a permanent piece on the internet forever, and they're banking, they're investing on how far you're going to take your brand
right.
and how much they want to be invested in that. But anyway, yeah, you're right. So I'm going to go through and read some of the stuff that I found. I went to about 4 or 5 different courses, essentially, like places that were like how to, have a good business blah, 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 interaction with somebody. But that's the thing; they come from all different kinds of things. It turns out there is nothing specifically for SHOT Show out there. So the best description I could come up with in elevator speech is a fast rundown of who you are and what you do. Right? Makes a good first impression, quick summary of yourself and or
Yep.
your product, chance to make a connection, or it's taking advantage of that opportunity, right? Gets that person interested and offers a call to action. So getting somebody interested and walking away, there's elements that are probably, I wouldn't say necessary, but are useful. If you have a great pitch, but you started off horribly, you're not going to go very far. If you got a great way to get introduced to somebody, but you don't have much follow up, that's not great. It says show
Well,
off. Oh, go ahead.
when you're, yeah, I mean, as you hit these different ones, I want to jump in real quick with something here. But so as you've got the introduction up front, like it's really quick who you are and what you do. Should there be there definitely has to be a component at some point of what you offer to them, right? They're there. They've spent, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, who knows, of dollars, right, to be there. They're not doing that to give stuff away. They're doing that to make money. They're doing that to grow their business. They're doing that to get something back, right? And it's the same way if they're working with you. It's not UNICEF, right? It's not. They're not doing it to be charitable to work with you. They're expecting something from you, right? So knowing that, um, should your introduction of who you are, what you do, include a quick why that would be important to the company. In other words, hey, I'm Chris with Clover Tack, and I create a variety of content, including video, podcasts, written reviews, and other things. And so I'm able to offer a diversity of content on this particular product or for this company, all in one place for you, right? Rather than, hey, I'm Chris with Clover Tack and I do XYZ. Should we hit on, would it be important to quickly hit on why those components of the elevator speech are important to the company, or wait till the end and potentially lose them because they're wanting to hear what's in it for me?
Well, I guess Microsoft did the research, and people have 8 seconds before they lose interest in talking to you. They've did math on that, and everybody cites the 8 second thing. So that must be fairly recent, and it must be good to go. At least gives us a good tethering point to think about. So what an elevator speech is supposed to do is introduce you, your business, provide the value, like you're saying, organize your points, identifies. I think you need to identify your market, what you'll be solving for them. Now, you don't want to oversell and you want to be memorable. So, just to throw some extra pressure on there. So, it is
Right.
supposed to do a lot of things. So, I guess my answer to that is although it's supposed to do a lot of things, every time you open your mouth, you don't have to accomplish everything you're able to do, right? So, you can have a lot of tackle in your toolbox, a lot of tools in your toolbox. It doesn't mean you open up your toolbox and bring out every screwdriver and wrench and hammer. You take a look at the problem and then know what you got, decide what the best tactic will be for this job, right? So I think that's part of it. Your first ones are gonna be awkward or whatever, but I don't think there's an elevator speech. I think there's a closet you go to with a bunch of elements and you craft your elevator speech to the circumstances. So sometimes you're always going to want to introduce yourself. Is that what we're saying? Like we always want to introduce ourselves. We always want to call to action. But I think aside from that, like the other 5 pieces or something, you might kind of just decide for the person or how you read them. And isn't that, there's knowing how to craft an elevator speech and there's knowing how to read the person and when to put the stuff out there. So there's half efficient is having the bait and being intimately aware of what the bait can do and how to use it. And then there's the skill set of actually using it. Do you think there's any way to prep for the learning curve, or do you just need to get out there and have a bunch of elevator speeches, good and bad, to start getting your feet in the water or get on the saddle? You think you can prep that? I guess you could if you guys have already talked about having some kind of an off-air thing where people just bounce elevator speeches off each other.
Hmm.
So I guess technically you could prep that way. That's a little
Right.
bit artificial, but it's also artificial with people who are on your side and scrutinizing and being critical in a nice way to
Hmm.
help you evolve that thing before you have to evolve it in front of a bunch of potential customers, clients, friends, whatever.
Right. Well, when you were talking about the 8 second thing there, um, something popped into my mind. So knowing that, right? Let's say 8 to 10 seconds. Should you tailor your conversation or whatever, kind of like I was alluding to before? We know that they want to hear what's in it for them, right? Um, and there's certain aspects too, like you genuinely are impressed by the product or whatever. Should you tailor the speech, your elevator speech, where every 8 to 10 seconds there's, I don't want to say like a palate cleanser, but there's a something that's grabs their attention. There's something you're talking about them. You're talking about their company. You're talking about, right, something that they're getting out of this, potentially going to get out of this conversation. I don't want to say getting, but potentially getting, right? Is there an opportunity every 8 to 10 seconds to interject, quick a quick something just to kind of regain, you know what I mean? Because, like, let's say you come out of the box and within 8 to 10 seconds you've got their attention. That don't mean you're going to hold their attention for the rest of the 2 minutes or whatever, right? Like a minute in, you may lose them again. And so, should you be concerned with kind of spreading out, I guess, the thing to keep them interested in the conversation in the elevator speech. I won't say conversation because you're the one talking.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing: it's not like you're finding somebody who's trying to mind their own business and you walk up and bother them. I mean, they're at a trade show; they spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to stand there so that you could walk up and talk to them. They just don't know who you are, and you might not be the perfect match. But I mean, they're definitely, like say, the shot show is unique in the respect that everyone's there doing this kind of business right now, no matter what that is, because you need an elevator speech just to get content. You don't have to make massive relationships with everybody you meet at SHOT Show. You just might want to get a picture of their gear and then move on. And you don't want to spend half an hour explaining why you want a picture of their gear and then move on, right? So there's different elevator speeches. So I'd say, without being mechanical, I think you should be aware that every 8 seconds people are going to zone out. So maybe I think a quicker, easier thing to do is just shut up every 8 seconds and let them, read the room. If they need, because some people need to talk. Some people are going to hate it if you're just blah, 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 blah. They need to be part of it. So maybe shutting
Yeah,
up every 8 seconds, being aware that if you are out of breath, you should probably shut up and let them say something, or change tack or something, like change direction if you're reading them. Or again, you can kind of tell when somebody in 8 seconds they're either listening to you or they're rolling their eyes, right? Is it
right.
worth a hard sell? I don't think that might be something else. I mean, it's probably advanced or whatever, but if you're talking to somebody shot show and they're rolling their eyes, I'm like, hey, have a great day, and I leave. I mean, it's got 4 days, unless it's Friday evening. You've got 4 days to talk to them again, to get better at whatever you're saying, or to let them. Honestly, a lot of times, if you talk to somebody on Tuesday morning, the first day of SHOT Show, and they think they've got 4 days worth of people coming to them saying how great they are, and you're the only one in SHOT Show who even knows what their product is, and they blow you off because they think they've got a lot of potential. I mean, it might be worth going back at the end. Hey, how'd the show treat you? Oh, guess what? You're our biggest fan, and we want you on our team now, right?
It's true.
So
Yeah, yeah.
so that it's really tough. Um, we're all over the place. Like I say, we're not necessarily creating some kind of curriculum here and trying to just give you a summary of it so that we can, sell you a course or something. But I did get a lot of this information from people like that. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. A lot of it is salesman oriented, and we're not quite salesmen. None of it that I found, at least, was you're an interviewer, you're a reporter, and you need to break the ice, right? I just didn't find that stuff under elevator speech. Maybe reporters or journalists call that something else, and I just don't know. But I have a who, what, how, right? So we went through the what the elevator speech is, who. So identify the needs and identifying the people. Clover's mentioned this in other shows. I think in this show, this series that we're doing, but I know you've talked about it just in general before. But there's going to be, let's look at any company out there. They've got somebody who runs it, or a board that runs the company. And depending on the company, it could be a board, so there is no person, or it could be one person that pretty much runs it. You've got their assistants or their next level of managers and supervisors and stuff, and then you're going to have employees at some level. The technicians and the manufacturing people, the sales people, the marketing people. Um, Big companies will have literally like a marketing PR person who's just like maybe the face, or they organize the faces of the company or something. Think of different companies and you can think of these different roles. So having some idea who those people are and being willing to talk to the media person instead of the head monkey or the boss, right? Like some places, you're never going to want to talk to the boss because it's no influence on what's going on in the company. Other places, if you don't talk to the boss, you're not doing anything with the company. So knowing that, being able to read that, I don't think we'll be able to offer any insight there, but that element of it, I think, is a big part of an elevator speech, knowing that it's adaptable or that it's fluid, like a lot of things at SHOT Show, and you're going to want to have a well you can dip into as opposed to a specific. I don't know. As soon as I say that, I'm wondering: is there one speech you could say, something short and sweet? Hey, this is my first year at SHOT Show. Uh, do something like that? Like, this is my first year at SHOT Show. Want to work together? I mean, obviously, maybe spruce it up a little bit from that, but I mean, that could work. You know what I mean? Like, this is my first year. Want to be part of a growing project?
Yeah.
There's going to be
Yeah.
people out there that are like, you know what? I know what that means. Heck yeah. And that means I could probably give you $100 or $1,000 and we're going to be friends for life. Like, there's people that understand that. You don't want to be naive about it, but you can be strategic about that and be that easy.
Yeah. I don't think, I think you potentially run the risk depending on who you are and your attitude and other things. I think you run the risk of getting in a mindset with that type of approach that, hey, this is my first SHOT Show, like bringing that up, right? You get into a mindset of where I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like you don't belong there, right? And I've always said, I mean, you have to have that confidence level. I mean, you've got approved for media, you got in. It's not like there's a ton of media people there. Like you are where you belong. Um, so that's the only thing with that. Utilizing I'm new, I'm first time at SHOT Show approach. Um, Not that it's going to be necessarily bad. The company sees that in a bad light, but I don't know, what is it, like, self demoralizing. I don't want it to. I don't want. I would fear an approach like that would get into the mindset, especially if you do that, because you're going to hear no. Make no mistake, you're going to hear no, and you're going to have people that brush you off. And so, if you've got an approach like that, um, is it is it potentially going to mess with your psyche a little bit? And that's something that you got to try to overcome. That, like, those, it makes those to where you start believing that you're inferior because of that, just simply because you've heard a few no's or because a couple people have blown you off, and you're like, okay, well, this sucks. I'm new. It's my first year. I'm not going to accomplish anything. Well, if you have that attitude, you're not, right. You definitely don't want to get into that mindset. You need to get in the mindset you're going to go in there, you belong there, and you're going to walk out the other side of SHOT Show successful, which is not difficult to do if you put in the work.
So, just a tangent, because that's crazy what you just brought up there. It could be a whole nother show. So, SHOT Show last year was kind of, they didn't know what was going to go on. It was the new building, the new convention center, so not quite double the size, but a whole new area of it. The existing stuff spread out into there. There might have been new people. Definitely people didn't show up, and then tons of audience or whatever attendees didn't show up. Certainly, a bunch of media didn't show up. This year, it's the opposite. Completely sold out, standing room only, and everybody is going to be somehow reacting after the fact to last year's opportunities and potentials. So, uh, it's just going to be an interesting SHOT Show for sure. It's going to be, I'm assuming, different. It's going to be different than last year as far as getting people's time and attention from them and stuff like that. Um, I've been starring a lot of the comments. I got 12 of them starred. We're about a half an hour in. I'm going to assume we're probably going to go 90-ish minutes, just unless Clover's got something going on today. We've got how. I'm going to just read through my bullet points there, and then just a couple more points after that, and then we'll go through with the bullet points. Because, like I say, I feel like we're definitely leaving, but we didn't have like necessarily even a bullet point agenda. I just literally wrote some notes as I was going through and trying to think about how to present something about this kind of super important. I don't think it's is it crucial, but it's definitely something that's overlooked. I think if you didn't have an elevator speech, you're going to do just fine. But having one isn't going to be some kind of magic, but it can make you get maybe more confidence. It'll give you more,
Yeah.
one less thing to worry about while you're there or concentrate on.
Well, I think even if you don't have an elevator speech, you have an elevator speech. Let's be honest. I mean,
Yeah, everybody has one. You just haven't thought about it. But yeah,
right,
everybody knows that you
right.
got to make your first impression, and
You're
you've
gonna
got
make an
that one
introduction.
opportunity.
Yeah, you're gonna make an introduction. Everybody's thought about that. Like, I'm gonna walk into this booth. I'm gonna, who I am, what I do, what I bring to the table, the projects I'm working on, how that fits with the company. You already know in your mind that's the things you're going to walk in and you're going to talk about that. It's an elevator speech. You just haven't, yeah, as you said, you haven't thought about the finer components of the flow. And a lot of that is going to depend. Again, it's going to depend on the booth. I mean, you'll walk into some and you just click with the person or whatever, right? And then the elevator speech goes out the window at that point. You're just goofing off and talking and talking about their experiences. I mean, I think a big thing too when we talk elevator speech, and I know this is all about elevator speeches, but I mean, there's components that sort of come into play before you ever get to that point, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like
And we're
like
smart, right? Just like when you're fishermen, you're going to look at the lake first. You're going to look at the weather
yeah,
and the wind,
right.
right? And then you're going to decide what to pull out of that box.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily research a company to death. Great relationship example with me is with Trailblazer. And, I'd got a press release and, it was talking about the pivot, but I didn't just, research every little thing about it or anything like that. And of course I already knew that they had the life card that was out, right? And so, I walk up in the booth and I'm like, hey, Chris with Clover Tech, that's all I said, and they knew who I was, which was it's always nice when you have people that have seen you or seen your content or they know of you. That always helps. And don't think that just because you're a smaller creator that hasn't happened, especially if you've worked with that company's products. Maybe it's your own product or whatever, something that you bought, I should say, right? And you filmed with it or did something. I mean, there's a chance that they've seen that or they know who you are. I mean, it's entirely possible. Um, but my icebreaker or whatever with that was literally, I'm like, hey, I was uh, really excited to get here and see this. Show it to me. What's going on? Like, I know it exists. I've seen it in the um, um, dang it! I see. Yeah, I've seen it in the
The
in the
showcase or
press
something.
release. Yeah, I've seen it in the press release. I was excited to get here. Tell me about it. Show it to me. And I mean, that's what they're there to do. So I mean, they were super excited to, and then
That
from
what gets
there, from that gives them the chance because they're going to have to do that throughout the whole show. They're going to have to demo and talk about it. So you're giving them practice in talking with distributors and dealers and other things anyway. But it also, like you said, G, earlier, some people, I mean, it gives them the opportunity to talk, and sometimes that's good. Plus, it it brings things to the forefront, right? As they're talking about this product, you're thinking about, okay, they're giving me this information on this product. Now I need to quickly tie this into what I offer, right, and what I do. Like, how can I take what this product is or how what this product does or who it caters to, and how can I amplify that, right? How can I help them out with this product? And you're thinking about that while they're talking about their product, right? So they're amped. All the facets of their product is at the forefront of their mind, right? And then they get through talking and you go, okay, man, that was awesome. I really think that we could work together on some things because this part of the product and the way you do this could be beneficial to my audience that does X, Y, Z, right? So there's some thinking on the fly that needs to go on, but
well
that that puts the ball
having
in.
3 or 4 options and then making a decision on
Yeah,
those 3 or 4 options
yeah,
on the fly is
I think
smarter
so. Yeah,
than just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
winging it. But yeah. Okay, so I'm interrupting, but one of the things that you mentioned there, and I'm going to say it could be, but you got to have a strong skin for this one, but you can also be a massive confidence builder or buster, I guess. So walking up and saying, "Hey, did you see my video?" So, like what you said, if you happen to have done a video, and it doesn't matter if you're proud of it or not, if it's got any kind of reach, or just maybe they commented on it, like you did a video of some grip and then or a holster or whatever. I'm trying to think of something that they might actually, you walk up to Colt and go, "Hey, have you seen my video?" Don't be, have realistic expectations, but you walk up to holster manufacturer, some kind of weird shim for a site or something, like some product that isn't going to get a lot of love from just the general population, and you go, "Hey, have you seen my video?" Or "Have you seen the video where so and so, where Santa Claus said this was the best product?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, well that's me." You know what I mean? Like that could be an interesting one. If they go no, then you're like, "Oh well, I made a video about it. You're Santa, with Santa Claus." But so you got to have a thick skin and not be too worried if they haven't watched it. But that, the way you said that, that would be a thing, And if you really have something in mind that you really want to work with, there's nothing stopping you from making that video. And then, "Hey, have you seen it?" Tag them on the video. "Hey, have you seen it? Okay, you saw
Yeah.
it. Good. It's what I wanted to do. Get your attention. Let's talk."
Well, that gets
Chat
into
show
the
exists, and you got it a month almost, still a couple of weeks at least to get ready for it. So yeah, if you really want to meet somebody, start putting out a bunch of videos. "Can't wait to meet so and so at Chat Show. Who, what do you want to know about such and such at Chat Show?" Then you ask them, "Hey, did you see my series of videos where I asked people what they wanted to know? I'm here. Can we talk about their questions?"
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. I put out typically, and I don't know if I'm going to do it this year or not, but typically I'll put out, like top 5 companies I want to visit with or top 5 products I want to see or something like that. And quite often when I uh, go into the booth, I say quite often, I mean, I have had companies that have seen that video, but that also gets into the whole idea. This is away from elevator speeches, but is important to the communication aspect of it, especially in the follow-up stages, is when you release that content, like definitely tag people, and you know we got the ability to tag on every single platform nowadays. So um, definitely tag people and stuff, or tag companies and stuff, even if you don't have a relationship with them. Tag them in it, and then that increases the odds that they see it. And then you do something between now and shot. You show up at shot. I mean, maybe they've already seen what you can do, which is good.
All right, I'm going to read off the hows, and then we can dig into some of the bullet points here, or some of the points that we've saved. So some of the how stuff. So we got the what elevator speech is, who, right? Who you're going to say it to, and then you got the how. I guess I don't have the when in here, but anyway, how would be or this might be what, I don't know. Anyway, it's supposed to be an icebreaker, or at least an icebreaker is one way to. Okay, you got somebody you want to talk to. How are you gonna talk to them? Well, you got icebreakers, right? Sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's the perfect timing. Some sort of like that slow clap. Sometimes you're the person that started the slow clap. Sometimes you look like an idiot.
Right.
So there's icebreakers, knowing when to use them. Again, you're in an elevator, it's super awkward. Well, heck, I got a bunch of stuff prepared. Let's start talking about this or me or the thing or their product, right? Like
Right.
let's break
Yeah.
the ice. Let's make this elevator ride that's going to be 10 floors up to the penthouse super awkward. Let's get rid of that real quick. Now you're the person that made the elevator less awkward, so now you got bonus points.
Hmm.
You could also lay a fart in the elevator, and you got to live with that. So be prepared for a couple of failures. Utilizing humor, which I just did, I hope. Use of questions. So you can be an idiot in a strategically smart way.
Yep.
Formal and casual. So, what I'm saying? Some people are going to like formal and casual. You can set that up. You walk up with a tie and formal attire, and you present yourself in a formal way with a business card. That's a whole different first impression than, well, let me take this chaw out of my mouth and spit it into a cup I'm carrying around, and then ask them to borrow something, and then start having the conversation. Then you got painting an image. Hopefully, play with that. If that's not your, I guess I'll just say, if any of these aren't your strong point, then drop them. Don't even think about them. Right?
Yep.
Being animated, again, if that ain't your thing, don't fake it.
Ah,
But if that's
sure.
your thing, lean into it. And then examples from your experiences. So these are people who are human beings who've spent tens of thousands of dollars and are taking a week out of their time, and they're gambling in Vegas whether or not this is going to turn out for them. Um, some of them want robot efficiency. Some of them are looking for that comfort. So, examples from your experiences with their stuff isn't always going to work. Some people could care less about your experiences. They know you're one single individual and they know how many products they've sold and how many they want to sell. Other people, they're looking for that human person on the other end of the line. And depending on how much response they're getting from the world, your experiences may be valuable or they may be value less. Um, there's a couple last points here, but I'm going to say let's break it here. Clover can riff on any of these how points, and then we'll start digging into some of the questions that people have been talking in the comments here. Or points, they're not
Um,
questions.
yeah, I mean, let's see, the icebreaker, utilizing humor. Um, yeah, I would say that is maybe an icebreaker. Questions are definitely important. Again, there's a big difference, and they're going to be able to see. Most people are, I think, they're going to be able to see if you're generally interested in the company and the products, as opposed to, you just want that golden egg, whatever it might be, right? You're
Can I ask
looking
you
in
a
here.
difficult question about your product?
Mhm.
A lot of people have been asking, what is it like to be the best optic at SHOT Show this year? Is it difficult having all the other optic companies look up to you? Boom. That starts a conversation off totally different than, you know, I'd like to make a video about your optic.
Yeah, and I think figuring out, um, things that are different, right? Because I mean, there are people that are going to come into their. I think it's being able to ask specific questions. I think is going to be better than general questions. And I'll give an example of this is just why I think that's more important. So if you walk into that booth and you're like, yeah, I want to see what you guys have new for this year, right? Well, that's really general. It's really generic. However, if you walk in and go, hey, what about what's the story with this XR715 model, whatever that I've heard about? What's the story with that? Like that's supposed to be out this year, right? Very specific question, right? It shows that you know a little bit or at least something about the company because there's a lot of people, whether that's dealers or we're talking to attendees in general, that literally walk into a booth and I mean that's a common thing. I hear it when I'm in booths. I've heard exhibitors talk about that people come in and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, obviously distributors come in and they want to hear what's new for the year. Yeah, that company is going to cater to them, but being specific, I think will catch their ear and their attention a little more, and ultimately that's what you want, right? And then you can branch out from there, like, oh well, what other things have you got? Once you've broken the ice with that specific thing, then move into and you can fake that till you make that. I mean, you can literally look at one product they've got, right, that they're going to release in 2023 and ask about that specific thing, right? And then move into, you may not know any of the other products, and that's fine. And then move into from there, going, well, what else do you have, right? And then again, I go back to while they're talking about that, that gives you a little time to bob and weave and adjust and figure out, okay, where's my approach for working with this product, right? Or working with this company.
It's kind of off, but it's also kind of adjacent. And something you said there made me think of when you walk up and say, hey, I'm such a, whatever, I've got my elevator speech down, I've got your attention, show me your product line, show me what you got new this year, show me the thing that everybody else is looking at. What's your final video going to look like? Now your video is, here's their booth review, here's their booth tour, here's their new product line, here's the thing that everybody else is talking about. So how is your video going to get any traction over anybody else's? Your production value is so great, you've got some magnet that people want to look at your video. Is it going to be first? Is it going to be the one that everybody else links to out in the world that wasn't a SHOT Show? You can't control any of those variables. But if you ask, how does this work against magnets? Like, what's the color blue mean in this one? Like, some specific thing that you know about or you care about or whatever. Now you've got the video that talks about the magnetism
Yep.
of it. You've got the video that talks about why it's blue. And now you've
Right.
at least given yourself some thing. Now you could also be the one that has 10 videos about the product, talking about everything in a separate video, and then a half an hour conversation with the inventor. You can create uniqueness. You can also create what's the opposite of uniqueness. So you can do a lot of effort here to create a product that's going to just sit there. And if your goal is to impress them, your goal is to move product, your goal is to grow as a channel, your goal is to become unique, then in your elevator speech, either let that be known or at least get yourself in that direction. You know,
Mhm.
you don't want to use all kinds of skills to get in and create something that's not as effective as it could have been.
Right. Yeah. Gizzard out there is making a good point. It's not about the free stuff, and that's true, and that's why I don't agree with the free stuff part of that, but um, just with the verbiage on that. But I agree in the sense that there's multiple angles that you bring to the table that is not just product related. But on the same token, um, depending on what you do, uh, and especially with me, with the podcast, with other people that do the podcasting thing and the audio side of things, um, at some point you're leaving money on the table. There's a big difference between, and I just wanted to address this real quick. Um, there's a big difference between I'm in this for the money, I only do this for the money, it's all about the money, and there's money sitting there and I'm literally just leaving it. I mean, I could reach out and grab it just like donuts on a courtesy table or whatever, donuts and coffee that are sitting there, right? It's sitting there for people to take, right? And you just walk by and leave it there. Um, that's a whole different thing. So, um, keep that in mind too. That depending on your goals and depending on what you're wanting to do, depending on your projects, um, yeah, I mean, could you get product for review? Yes. Could you get people to interview, like the inventors or the owners or something like that? Yes. But then you've also got the potential if branding and products and things line up well. You've got the potential for sponsorship. You've got the potential for other things that pay real money. And when we're talking about the ROI with going to SHOT Show, that has to be a part of your game plan. I think. Now, how big of a part of that game plan, um, how big of a part that it is, I guess, is that's varies from one to the other. But I think a lot of people are not making that as big of a component as they probably should. And I know G has complained to myself and others constantly about that, about you're leaving money on the table, you're leaving money on the table, you're leaving money on the table. So um, while I get the free stuff thing, wanting product to review, that sort of thing, um, work on getting away from that mindset if you are that you're approaching these companies and you're getting anything. Like you want the approach that I'm going in there and regardless of what we work on together or do, like this is a mutually beneficial relationship at worst, right? And if anything, they're getting the free stuff. They're getting the value here, not me.
Yeah, that gets. I'm gonna take that down different route on different show or something. But yeah. Um, okay, so as far as the ice or the elevator speech, though, yeah, you might want to have a bigger picture or long term goal, or at least an idea of which direction you want to go, so that you don't start off with I don't know, booth reviews when you'd really rather talk to them about decisions on design or something. Okay, so I'm going to head over to the questions that we've been starring along the way here, about an hour in. So appreciate everybody who's joining us live. Again, I do these things live as opposed to produced videos. I could get a lot more reach probably with produced stuff because it would look all nice and we'd have scripted it and at least edited out some of the ums and the stuff that didn't land was good. But the interactive nature of the internet allows us to actually have conversations with everybody who's joining us. So these are valuable for us who are here live, and then for the people that watch after the fact, at least, according to comments that we've gotten over years and years of doing this kind of stuff. Um, so the first one, I guess, is from earlier. She Fires says, I was updating my media kit this morning. Does anyone use one? We'll probably do a separate one on media kits because that is essentially what you're going to hand off or what you're going to offer as a new elaborate business card in 2022. We'll probably do a second one on that just to talk about it. And we're talking about this in regards to SHOT Show because this is a big industry event, but everything we're talking about here and a lot of these shows will apply to the Pennsylvania show. It'll apply to NRAM. It'll apply to the USCCA. It'll apply to the POMA or any of the other smaller and evolving events that happen for the industry. And going to SHOT Show gives you an extract of it. You're going to have 4 days worth of. I mean, you don't even have to hardly walk. If you didn't want to walk very far physically, you could just literally start at the first booth and just kind of start applying your tactics as you walk down every other booth or something. You might not tear through all of SHOT Show and see everything new, but you'll get so much experience that way that you'll. I mean, I can't imagine a channel wouldn't excel after that experience. I wouldn't do it. There's other things to do. If you have 3 people going, what an interesting way to start people off. Just send them out booth to booth or something, or maybe with a list of booths that they do. Anyway. So update the media kit, and then Clover's back.
Yeah.
This your media kit is a separate show?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So we don't want to blow you off, but yeah, media kits are, like I say, essentially what you're going to hand the person to introduce or offer some more awareness than you're going to get across, and something that they have to linger. Like they'll have it to look back on or to remember. Who did I talk to on Tuesday? Oh, I have this physical thing from them, this piece of paper, or this thumb drive. Hopefully you do it with more than just an email. But, this is something I can remember who was there on Tuesday or Wednesday because I have this thing, as opposed to I vaguely remember I had a good conversation on Wednesday, and that'll definitely happen. You could be just a vague remembrance that you had a good conversation, but for whatever reason you didn't leave them with something like a patch or a business card or a media kit.
Well, but isn't there the potential that they lose that, they misplace that, they forget that? I mean, with everything that's going on, isn't there that
For sure.
potential?
Yeah, of course. I'm just saying if you don't do anything, then all they have is their memory, and you got to depend on a memory after all of that. Like, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessary, critical, but it's super important,
Right.
and definitely an advantage rather than a disadvantage to have with you. Anyway, we'll have a whole other show on that. So great question, great point. Up next from She Fires. I guess sort of when we were kind of talking about elevator speeches in the beginning, she's put the sample. Hi, my name is whatever, and I cater to whatever. My focus is whatever. That's very business-like. I mean, that's just not the way I talk, but I could see someone approaching somebody with that, and it is effective and efficient. So I can't say there's right or wrong, because if you talk to 10 people, they're going to get 6 different ideas of opinions on it.
Right.
But I think you could do a lot worse having some kind of actual equation like that, or system where you're gonna you could easily change out who you cater to depending if it's an optic company or a holster company or a bag or a target, right? But actually, you could change out either of those variables. So I think you could do a lot worse. And if you need to just get experience talking to people, because that's something else. I mean, some people, we're all adults here. There's very few inexperienced youngsters. So whatever your business is or whatever your experiences are in life to get you to where we are, some people can walk up and talk to people, and some people, that's the skill they're mastering, right? At SHOT Show, it's like you're going to talk to whatever 16,000 vendors. What do you think?
True.
They're all exactly the same. Some of them are going to be shy and awkward, and some of them are going to be slick car salesmen.
Right.
And you're not. There's people that I won't talk to because I don't like them. Like, what? I don't like you. I've never met anybody who's like you that's worth anything. That's legit. Like you're shady. So guess what? I don't care about your company or your product or whatever, because if they hired you, then there's something wrong with them.
Right.
That happens,
Yeah.
and they're going to think the same way backwards, I'm sure. But some of them. But anyway, so having a structured thing and just saying it can get you past. I don't know if we want to call them like just experience level. I don't want to call it a hurdle because it's just there and it's something that everybody has to experience. Now, some people will think of the end goal and go, I need to get X amount of videos today. So their elevator speeches will be a subtopic to how many videos they get that day. Or I want to master my camera. I want to be able to get good videos today. Anybody can get videos. I want to get good videos today. So your elevator speech is going to be, hey, I just really want to take videos of your stuff. Do you mind if I just take some time over here and take videos of your stuff, and then I'll tell you who I am once it's up? That could be an elevator speech. You don't have to be selling anybody or trying to get something out of them or create a relationship. It could just be, can you leave me alone for like 20 minutes with your stuff, and then I'll appreciate it. Thank you. Because that's still an elevator speech, and it still helps them, helps you a lot. You know what I mean? And that can be another way to, anyway. So I kind of went in a tangent there. As far as Sheaflare's comment, riff on that one. It's a
I think the elements are solid. I think I go back to there's nothing wrong with that, but I would view that as a algebraic equation, right? And you got to plug in conversational language to that, right? Like, there's a difference when you're reading some, statistics, and you're reading something that's much different than just your normal conversational language. It's a lot different. Like, you know, you if you're up in front of a crowd speaking, that's going to be different than an intimate cocktail party after hours type conversation. All of that's different, right? The language you use. So, and I think that comfort level affects the language that you're going to use there. But I mean, the premise, the data points, whatever you want to call them, that you're using in that is spot on. It's solid. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, your name, that's who you are, um, who you cater to, and then your focus, right? Like who you cater to, and then why that matters.
Sheafire's next point, question, statement, and I'll let Clover riff on this one first. So I think they were having a back and forth, and she said, like, kind of clarified with whatever back and forth was going on at the time. So don't say you're a YouTuber, question mark, or I'm going to add that. So you don't say you're a YouTuber, question mark. What do you think on that one?
Yeah, I mean, and Ghost kind of alluded to that out there in the chat too. That a lot of the media that's at SHOT Show are YouTubers. So I'm not real sure they don't assume that when you walk up with a media badge. They don't almost right away assume you're a YouTuber, um, because they just get so much of that, right? Um, and then again, there's many reasons that I would not that can come with all types of connotation. YouTuber can, and so I wouldn't put myself in that box for sure. I mean, I would be I'm a content creator. I'm a video content creator. I'm a content creator. Do video podcasts, written reviews, whatever. That's all content, right? Um, social media, whatever it might be. I would not get super platform specific in an elevator speech. Now, once you get to where get a situation where they're asking you questions, and you go, hey, I do video content, on a variety or video content, podcast, and written written articles on a variety of platforms, right, or something along those lines. And then you get down to it, and they go, "Hey, where all do you do YouTube?" They're probably going to ask you that, right? Since you said video, and you go, "Yeah, but I don't just do YouTube," and you can explain to them why. That gives that opportunity, right? And you can say, "Yeah, I mean, I upload primarily to YouTube. I mean, it's the big duh. It gives you a chance to be candid. It gives you a chance to be I don't want to say self-deprecating, but saying things that they already know, right? Like, yeah, of course I upload to YouTube. It's the largest platform on the planet for video, so I mean, you got to be on YouTube, right? And then you go, but as far as putting links in and doing things to drive traffic, to the companies, to the products, to your stuff, there are other video platforms as well that I work, to try to maximize the eyeballs that we get on your products or your services, or whatever the case may be. And then you can list off a few of those options, if you want. They may ask, and one of the other things is they may even, if you get into that conversation, if the elevator speech leads to that type of a conversation, they may even tell you some things that platforms or something that you've never heard about. Like, because some of these people are tech savvy and they use things. So they may go, hey, do you upload to so and so? And then it gives you the opportunity to go, wow, I didn't even know about that. Like, what's going on there? You know? Um, and you're like, absolutely, I get back. Thank you for that information, right? And I get back, I'm definitely gonna look into that. And yeah, I'm totally open to uploading, to that thing, or posting over there, whatever the case may be. But again, it's what you bring to the table for them. That's what's got to be conveyed.
So they may have, because they're manufacturers or something, and they may have been kicked off of YouTube or whatever they think of, and they may have just decided to leave YouTube. They may have decided YouTube's too big of an ocean. They're going to be a big fish in a smaller pond. But whatever, they may have some other platform that they champion or they're trying to create presence on. So knowing that and having presence on those can be a benefit, or be a bigger benefit than being on YouTube for some people, right? They're trying to be on Rumble, and you can help them on Rumble at all. That you can be a much bigger influence on a Rumble platform than you could ever be on Google or YouTube, I guess. And they know that. And depending on how tech savvy or whatever, you're not trying to necessarily sell them as much. I'm not trying to say you're trying to sell them as much as uh, make it worth their while to talk to you, or have interaction with you versus somebody else. So there's that element. Just be in mind also, just to be devil's advocate to this. Every once in a while, you're going to find somebody who is not computer person, and they will need to be told, yeah, this is going on YouTube, right? Like, they know that they're not on YouTube, but they know that that's important, and they don't care if you're the biggest channel.
It's true.
They're just looking for something. And then there's other people that can appreciate a giant channel with 1 million views is not 1 million customers buying 500,000 products every time the video goes live. It's a
Yep.
whole bunch of children, a whole bunch of people looking at the video and laughing at it, a whole bunch of antis watching the video and going, can you believe they do this with their guns? Like, those views are not customers.
Right.
So if you've got a channel that's all about reloading, you've got a channel that's all about females carrying holsters, right? You've got a channel that's all about getting training or traveling to different industry events. You've got a different audience and you bring different value to them. So saying you're a YouTuber, yeah, it's a little that's like saying, like, I go on the line, I go on internet. Okay, that's a given. Um, so I think I want to just repeat what Clover said there.
Yeah.
But great point. And I think we might, because we're on YouTube and we're into this, we're probably spending more time than is necessary on some of these points. But that's kind of what the show's about, getting into the details of stuff that just aren't always said, right? Like,
Right.
that are assumed too often. So Milsurp is the next one. I'm fortunate with working at a gun store and not working on commissions. I've been able to work with different types of elevator speech for customers looking at guns. Um, in other words, I think what he's saying is, because the shop itself doesn't, his salary doesn't depend on him pressuring people to purchase. He can do what he wants and help people find what they want. Um, he's able to have that introductory conversation with people. I don't know if I'd call it an elevator speech when you're the employee at a place. You've got an obligation to have a response, and it can be well thought out or not, right? But elevator speech is like two people that don't know each other bumping into each other and not
Right.
sure if they're doing business or if they're just talking to each other. You know what I mean? There's a lot more unknowns in an elevator speech, I think. But I get what you're saying. Like, you can understand how to read people and apply appropriate conversation to the people. And that's, I think, what I was kind of saying when, we all have our real lives. If you're selling flooring to people, or if you're trying to, get customer feedback from credit card sales or something, you still can understand how to read people and apply that to what we're talking about here, right?
Yep.
Anything else you want to riff on as far as this one? Then I'll go on to the next one. I posted this one before, growth of a platform. Um, YouTube for a minute there was growing, and I got to live through a bunch of stuff at SHOT Show. Since 2005, I've been going to SHOT Show. So forums were first, and then came YouTube and Facebook, actually, and then YouTube. So the social platforms, and then video, and then live streaming, and then all the different fits and starts along the way. So I've seen plenty of potential, and I've even created some things, some presences or platforms out there, literally. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of different versions of this, but I kind of mentioned a second ago, if a manufacturer or somebody has decided they've been kicked off of YouTube, because usually they haven't getting kicked off of YouTube as much as decided they would be, so they might as well just leave. But if they've made the decision or been forced to quit using YouTube, um, those other platforms are either going to or have the potential to offer whatever, like an alternative presence for people. Uh, Championing that, being the biggest Rumble person at SHOT Show. I don't think it's this. Obviously, it's not the same as being the biggest YouTuber at SHOT Show, but there's a lot of platforms. Like you just went through a bunch of them. Let's include guntube.org at the top of that. But Utreon, I don't know them all, but there's so many places to post video these days that are alternatives to YouTube. Um, I don't think it's your number one go to, but having that feather in the cap, being on a platform that's still got growth, that's something that we haven't had in a while. I mean, it's been a long number of years where everyone just defaulted to YouTube. I can remember having conversations with Clover where I raged about the whole let's just lean into YouTube being the biggest platform or being the biggest video thing. Doesn't need to be that way. It just kind of happened and everyone was okay with it. But we're at a point in 2023 where I mean, I think we had YouTube, we had Gunstreamer and we had Guntube.org, and then UTGTube, who all came onto the scene specifically for firearms because they saw a perception that YouTube wasn't going to allow them anymore or something. But aside from that, I think this is the biggest push or the biggest awareness of off YouTube platforms that there's ever been. There's been never been a need to look at other platforms, and there's never been as many people on those other platforms, and there's never been as many other viable platforms. And if we talk about the alternatives to Twitter, like the Parlor and the Truth and the things like that, there's more options than there's ever been. What do you think until 2023 to represent other platforms with your presence at Chacha?
Yeah.
Now I don't know if that's lucrative. Like I don't know if that's the way to go. Personally, I'm not doing it, but it doesn't mean there's not a lot of potential there, a lot of room for that.
Right.
I mean, that could also be a whole nother show. Like, what platforms are the platforms to champion a SHOT Show? We all can give YouTube as a given, maybe Facebook for some people as a given, but how do you rank all those other platforms? And there's kind of time to still kind of amp them up. If nothing else, you can kind of throw a couple of prep videos on those platforms to see who's out there
Mm-hmm.
that's interested in a SHOT Show. All right, so Ghost is saying also know who you're talking to. If you are talking to someone who's hired for the week, you aren't going to get the same reaction or get the reaction you want. Make sure you're talking with someone who can decide or has a decision making powers at the company or is an actual decision maker. How do you determine that? I guess there's probably a couple of rules of thumb, but like anything, just pay attention, right? Don't talk up
Right.
to the person who's fetching coffees.
Right. Yeah.
Then She Fire brought. Oh, I don't know if you want to riff on that one. Otherwise, She Fire brought up have a short and a long form pitch. I think that's an interesting way to think about it. I think of it more like a trapper keeper, and I got a whole bunch of pages in there for different options. But
Yeah.
short versions and long versions of each of them is probably a great way to think of it too. Some
Yeah.
people you just want to test, and other people you want to give them give them your prepared statement, right?
Right. Yeah.
Let's
Correct.
see. So then Chief Fire says the first response to your elevator pitch should be used to refine the pitch for next time. I want to riff on that.
First one, not necessarily. Um, I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess you've got the opportunity. I mean, there's so many people you can talk with and stuff like that. I mean, I would, I've said this before, and I don't remember if it was. I think it was on a previous time that we had a live, but I would start my day out or try to start my day out with maybe companies that you already know in a way, or you've already dealt with, or you're familiar with their products, or something like that, rather than a company that you don't know anybody there, you don't know anything about them, that sort of stuff. And one of the reasons I suggest that is the confidence boost. There's definitely and I think Snob said out there the thing at some point. There's a big difference between being confident and feeling like you are where you belong and being cocky. I totally agree with that. But um, there's just something about starting your day out right. You don't start your day out that way typically, if you do that approach on a wrong foot. You don't start your day out with some bad feedback. And quite honestly, being in the media room and getting to hang out with your people and talk with others and you know uh, war game your day and debrief the day before and different things like that. Right, that support structure that we've talked about over and over again. That certainly helps too. So I would be cautious because you can you could go in and you could think, okay, that elevator speech didn't work. I would rather than using that to refine the pitch. Um, if you think that there was something wonky there or whatever, right? Um, think about why that was. Like, did it was it because of your elevator speech, or was it because of just that booth and that person and the way their mindset and the way they approached things, right? And then so refining your elevator speech for the next person you run into that has that attitude, that comes at things from that angle, whatever the case may be, yes, it's beneficial. Um, to change it every single booth, you know what I mean? Um, yeah, that's it's erratic to me. I don't get that.
Yeah, I think overcorrecting can be an issue, right? So, and
Yeah,
there's too
yeah,
many,
that good,
like,
yeah, yeah,
but I think you're right. Like understanding that, okay, people that are shy of YouTube don't want to hear about YouTube. I'll shut up about that element. People, that kind of thing. Um, Ghost is the next one with best way to make your markets to know something about their company and how you can help them. Knowing their numbers or market share or whatever can help grab their attention. Again, this is a specific industry show. So if you went up with that kind of stuff at an NRA show or a gun show, they might be like, that's kind of weird. But if you're at a gun show, I mean, a shot show, that's the difference between walking up with a nice looking camera and efficiently getting content and walking away and then giving them great value video later versus walking up and making a big scene and using way elaborate equipment. And then at the end, you don't even have a video to show them because you lost it in the hotel room or, like the thing was all fuzzy or something, even though you had all that fancy equipment. Like there's that element, right? Like at SHOT Show, people are expecting you to come up and have a business conversation about whatever, or at least they're in that mindset. So if they think all YouTubers are here to exploit us and get pictures of our stuff and we have to use them to get free marketing or something, and you walk up and you can have a real conversation with them about, well, like Go says, how you can help them or where they're at, and they've never even thought about that stuff before. Yeah, you can. I think you got a better odds of impressing somebody than uh, offending them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you're going to offend anybody with that. They might not agree with you or be uh, enthusiastic or impressed by you or something or what you're able to offer them. But nobody's going to be offended that you put time into thinking about their company. I don't think you're going to get anybody. I can't even imagine somebody going, "Oh, I can't believe you even suggested that." Instead, I think you'd probably get more reaction of like, "Wow, that's can't believe you spent that much time thinking about it." We don't know who you are, but unless they're a-holes, they're going to at least be nice to you. If not, I don't know. I think that's actually a pretty good shoehorn. Um, if you weren't even on their radar, they didn't even think about having YouTuber interaction at the SHOT Show, but you're able
right.
to come up and give them something like that. Uh, it depends on how adaptive they are. If they came to SHOT Show without thinking about YouTube, I think that's possible, but that would also be some fairly narrow-minded people in
Well, you gotta
2023.
think that there's companies that it's their first time at SHOT Show, and it's
Because of the overwhelming part of it. It's not like they don't
probably
know about
just
YouTube; they just didn't think about it.
yeah, and like they're not thinking about that until you walk in. And I got to think that if they've ever set up right and been an exhibitor at SHOT Show before, like they probably get it. They understand. You don't catch them off guard or anything like that. Um, but you also here's another thing that's important to remember. I walked into um, a booth one time, and it's always important to kind of identify yourself. And I don't necessarily say get permission, but for lack of a better way to explain it, get permission. Because I walked into a booth one time down on the bottom floor, introduced myself, and hey, I'd like to get some video, some pictures here, and I got the rundown. I mean, I got the spotlight on me, like sweating interrogation thing and all. And the reason, as it turns out, it was a very interesting conversation that was had and left there. Uh, Eventually had those people on the podcast. I've seen them at multiple shows. It's not a problem. But they had a situation to where um, they had some people come by. They said they were media. And then the next thing you know, these people had copied their idea or whatever, right? Um, and so be aware that that's something that does happen. I know it's kind of out of the blue, but be prepared that there are companies that have had that experience before. Um, and so that's why it's important to kind of identify yourself and make sure that they're comfortable with you uh, being there and taking pictures and videos and doing things.
Yeah, sometimes you need to tell people who you are, but you also need to tell them who you are not.
This is true. Yeah, good point. Yeah. Good way to put it.
Because
Right.
there's been a lot of people burned. I'm not just making that up. Like there's people that tear through this industry and they don't care. I mean, they were selling beanbag chairs, they were selling insurance to old people or something. They were doing something heinous, sucked at it, saw the industry, the firearms industry, being a bunch of dipshits as far as marketing and stuff. So a lot of the stuff that we've got is from video games. It's from failed other marketing people that come over here. They don't last. I mean, they're bad. They weren't good where they came from, and they move on. But while they're here, they just burn bridges and tear through and leave bad taste in people's mouths, right? So we've got to deal with that. But you mean it's not like it's unique. I'm sure that's happening in every industry, right? The people that are bad tend to uh, use up the resources and move on. But it's pretty easy to show that you're not like that once you've been around for a while. So when being new, it's tough, but being new is always tough. You've got to have some, what's the word? You have to have some experience and some stuff to establish some reputation. But hopefully, we're giving you some ideas on how to do that with some thought, so that you're as effective as possible. Assuming you're new. If you're not new, then hopefully you're refining your stuff. So back to sheet fires. Wait a minute. I hovered over something here and I saw a thing happen on the screen that I'd never seen before. Okay, sorry. I just saw something on StreamYard. I hovered over one of these things where I can change the stuff around, and somewhere between, oh, there it is. Screen layout, press Shift +6. Oh, did you know that you can I mean, it makes sense, but you can keyboard command between all of these.
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just never saw those things pop up before. So she fires is said first response to your. I think this is in response to her last comment. I think they were actually having a conversation, and I'm just picking these things up as things to talk about. But she followed up with the first response to your elevator pitch should be used to refine this pitch. And I think that's again kind of refining what she was talking about before. I think that every time you post an elevator speech, that yes, you're going to be refining it for the next time. But like Clover said, don't overreact too much. But I would also think, kind of like you said before, with the long and short versions of your elevator speech, if you've got an elevator speech for optics companies, an elevator speech for targets, and an elevator speech for boots, refine each of those. And every once in a while, there's going to be some crossover. But I would give it a little bit more uh, specification than just each elevator speech evolves the next one. But I don't know. As soon as I say that, I guess there are some certain things, like laughing in the middle of it. Does that feel creepy or does that break the ice? Like some people are going to want to laugh and some people aren't. So it has nothing to do if they're optics or holsters or targets. So some people are just going to appreciate some humor and some people are going to think of it as distracting or something. You have anything to throw in this one?
No, I think we covered it.
Then I think when we were talking about doing something to be memorable, whatever, Ghost said, I find that doing the moonwalk while doing the speech, the elevator speech, makes it memorable. Unfortunately, not in a way or unfortunately, they remember me in the wrong way. But to kind of get into the humor and the doing something, if your elevator speech is something, maybe something as simple as commenting on the booth that they spent $10,000, not just to have there, but to create the booth itself. Like, wow, your booth really stands out. My name is blah blah blah. You know,
Yep.
then Library Garrett is saying it's gone. Library Garrett. I don't want to change his name, but he's leaving for Colombia for 10 days. What should he bring for protection? It's kind of off topic, but a big supporter of the channel. Thank you for that. And Colombia, so the country of Colombia, and for protection, I'm assuming he means like self personal protection. He said he was going to vacation as opposed to business. From what I understanding is most places in the world they leave the vacation areas alone. So aside from like petty pickpocketing and stuff, you're not probably going to get murdered or anything. Most places want their tourist money to stay legit. So unless you wander outside of the kind of standard tourist areas, from what I understand, most places in all the world leave the tourists alone unless there's some kind of strife going on, which I don't think there is in Colombia right now. Otherwise, I don't know. I think it's not. Maybe it's naive, but most of the people I've known that go to Central and South America have had very pleasant trips, vacations, and nobody brought anything crazy. I mean, they were really just having fun. Honeymoons and anniversaries and family vacations and stuff. But I know lots of people that go south and never heard really of anything other than the crazy extremes in the news. I don't know if you got any side topic there, but if you got anything to throw on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Columbia sounds fun though. I think elevator speeches are more important for people. So Ghost is saying, I think elevator speeches are more important for people with less experience. Once you've done this for a while, you can just react and talk.
Yep.
Interesting. So I would say be hesitant about being comfortable with your expertise because you're going to that the danger I see there is not realizing the importance of that first interaction with people. And I can just tell you that from I burn way too many bridges because I could care less. I'm not there to do business. So, there's lots of people who think I'm some kind of weird person because I'm not there doing the same thing as a lot of people. So I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not interested in the same thing. I'll walk up and go, oh, this is interesting. Do you like having your booth on a corner this year? You've always been in the center of the aisle. Some people aren't used to that kind of question because they're not there to ask a question about the show. They're talking about their optic or whatever. So you catch them off guard. Um, so that's my thing. As I think it's probably something that happens with experience in any realm, but be careful if you feel I don't want you just get too loose. You think you're too experienced or you think you've got it figured out, and then you meet that person who's inexperienced, and you can look cocky or you can look like I don't know what the word is uh, like you're not giving enough, you're not taking it seriously enough, and that can have an adverse, I guess. So I hear what you're saying, and it depends if you're meeting somebody for the fifth time. I guess that's not an elevator speech anymore, but um, I guess if you have a relationship with a company and they bring a new person on, is that an elevator speech when you meet that first new employee for the first time? I guess not, because you probably got some other
Right.
some other conversation before that. They're going to say, hey, so and so is coming from YouTube, or so and so people from YouTube are coming, so they have some awareness of what you're doing. So I don't know, that's an interesting one. But at the same time, we're talking about elevator speeches like it's such a big deal. It's not like you've got index cards in your pocket and you're reciting
Right.
elevator speeches. This is just to
Yeah.
be aware that it is an important topic, an element, but it's an element of so many other things that I don't want to say it's not important, but it is. It's important enough to do a show on it.
Yeah.
But
And I think that if it's kind of like what was it, Bill Dua, I think brought up with working at the gun shop, like talking with customers, right? So like a big part of it, the elevator speech. I think what Ghost is getting at is for those that maybe don't work with the general public, that are not social butterflies, that can't just bump into somebody at the grocery store or whatever and carry on a conversation, or people that are that type, and there's that type of person, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like elevator speeches really help, but elevator speeches, you're going into SHOT Show. There's already, a certain amount of stress involved and everything else. You want to make sure that you've got all the bases covered. You obviously want to succeed. You want that ROI. You've got all these different things going on in your mind. And like having that elevator speech um, can help because it's just, we talked about the icebreaker, right? Well, that works both ways, right? Not only breaking the ice, but kind of breaking out of your shell as well. And so I think that if you're just comfortable talking with people in general, like, that starts making the elevator speech a little less and less necessary because, let's say that let's take the whole reason it's called an elevator speech, right? You meet somebody while you're waiting for the elevator, right? You
The
get into
Apple
the
Orchard or
elevator,
whatever.
whatever. You get into the elevator, you ride it to the top floor, right? Well, for me, I'm probably going to comment on their suit or their luggage or, that's nice or, well, it's a cool watch or those are cool shoes or, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm just comfortable in that environment with, breaking the ice with the introduction with just talking with people. Right. And so it happens more organically for me. Um, but not everybody is that way. And so having that elevator speech, and not only is it not that way, but you bring up a good point that what if you go in and you've been to SHOT Show, many times before, you've been to multiple types of shows and whatever, many times before, you're comfortable. For the most part, 90% of the time you can walk into that booth. You don't necessarily need that elevator speech. It's there, it's in the back of your mind. You've given it thought. You've used it maybe in years past, but it's like, yeah, I don't rely on it anymore because I'm pretty good at starting and carrying on the conversation and directing a conversation, which is even more important, I think. Um, but you walk into that booth, and the person you're talking to is inexperienced, right? Like the person that you're talking to is never, they're not a social butterfly. It's their first year at something like SHOT Show, or maybe it's their, I've met, and thankfully it's been with companies I've already had an established relationship with, but I've literally had conversations, first time conversations with media slash marketing people for a company, for a firearm related company that did not come from the firearm related world, right? They come from makeup or they come from some other industry, right? And so, they're timid, they're intimidated, they're not outside their element when it comes to marketing and stuff, but they're outside of their element as far as the industry, right? And so there's a certain level of uncomfortableness is not a word, but there's a certain level of them not being comfortable there. And
Awkward.
sometimes awkward. There's a certain level of awkwardness there. And sometimes I think the elevator speech, or at least elements of your elevator speech, um, could be beneficial to help, I guess, regulate the situation or whatever, right? Where it's something that they could better. You're not feeding them with a fire hose. You know what I mean? You use that analogy. Like an elevator speech is more of a, we're going to trickle in on them to hear a little bit instead of just walking in with the normal, big personality, super friendly smile, you know, eager for the handshake, eager to ask questions, that sort of thing.
And that's interesting. So something about the way you said that. Think about from the booth's point of view what they're experiencing. It. Think about going to a gun show and with the person sitting behind the table. Right. A lot of times we're the attendee, so we don't think about the perception or what's happening from the other side. So they're getting a bunch of coughed on, sneezed on, full of candy, hands thrown at them all day, right? Like sticky with whatever they've been drinking or wet with whatever condensation was on the bottle. Like they're just getting all kinds of weirdness all day. And if you can be a relief from that, or just be aware that you're in that mix, what's good, what can help you stand apart from that. That's something about what you said there made me think about that. Smeggy has a point. You have to think about what you want out of the conversation. Do you just want an interview, or do you want to start a partnership? I think that's such a profound one. So the first part of it, you have to think about what you want out of the conversation. You are in a business relationship situation, an industry
Yep.
get together. It's I keep talking about it. It's huge. They spent a ton of money, so right away you know that they want return on that investment. Right? They're there to get the word out. You're there to get the word out. Like you just have to figure out how your parts are going to match up. You can be casual and play it by ear and see how it goes, and maybe we'll together, but that's on you. Like that's a decision you're making, because you can also understand that they may not realize this, but they've just spent a ton of money and they're going to get a lot of those handshakes coming at them. They're going to get a lot of sales pitches thrown at them. They're going to get so much that it's drinking from a fire hose. They're going to forget stuff. So understanding all that and understanding that you want to get something accomplished from this whole thing, it's not inappropriate, I guess is what I'm saying. This isn't like going up to the NRAM and asking to do business with somebody. That would be inappropriate. You would not expect to have relationships start up. That would be an extra bonus. You can expect to get content. You can expect to get some FaceTime, but don't expect to get like, it's not conducive to business. SHOT Show's the opposite. SHOT Show, it's all about business. So if you're in there shooting the shit, not doing business, kind of wasting everybody's time. At least the point of this whole show is to actually get the business done. So having an idea what you want out of it is crucial. Then he gets into, do you want an interview or just start a partnership? Or I don't say just, but do you want an interview or to start a partnership? Or, a lot of the other stuff we've talked about today. Get a good video, get better at your skills, right? Your interaction could just be to get past the inexperience of talking to people about this kind of stuff, right? It could be because you just need a video because your best friend asked you to get a video of this thing that you don't care about, some stock or some grip or something. So, what you want out of it can vary on a spectrum, but I think that's great. Having intent is 99% of it. Anybody can observe, but going in and being part of the thing, valuing what you've got to offer. And anyway, I'll shut up. So I think this is a profound one, but go ahead.
No, I think you're right. Yeah. We talked a lot about, they're there and they're obviously wanting a return, but I mean, you're going and you want a return too. Now, I'm not real sure how um, companies. I'm not real sure. This is an interesting thing because I'm not real sure how. I know that the vast majority of companies I work with understand that doing the media thing is not free. I mean, obviously, it costs money to be able to do the media thing and stuff like that. So, there is a certain amount of return that as content creators, we have to, we kind of have to strive towards. And I don't want to say expect, but you get where I'm going with that. I don't know how the industry side views that. Um, and so that's an interesting dynamic. But yeah, I mean, there's a
Well,
certain amount of
we know from the stuff that SHOT Show sends out that there's no attempt and no awareness that I'm aware of that I've seen. There's no awareness of the effort and the nuance of media. They think
right.
of media the same way they put media together with writers from magazines, TV show people, bloggers, podcasters, everything that exists, they put in as media. So right there, it
Right.
shows you that there's no nuance at all. So that's a great point.
Yeah. So, I'm not real sure how the industry in general sees that, or if they see the same things. Because the
Or have
media, we
any
can say,
understanding other than just, oh,
yeah,
they're here
because I
for
mean,
us.
we're sitting here and we've already said many times that they're there, they have to get a return, they're there to make money. We get it. Our goal as media is to help with that endeavor, but at the same time, us helping them, the whole idea of, we're not UNICEF or whatever, it goes both ways. That there's a certain amount we need to get out of that as well, right? Um, whether that whether we make money, quote unquote, make money on it, or it's a a net zero game even, or whatever, right? But something is to where that stuff's covered. Um, man, that
It'd
may
be
be a
interesting. We should do one for a whole show.
so that may be a conversation that I may actually be willing to have this year with some with some companies in their booths, just to kind of get an idea of where they stand. Do they realize, like, hey, we're out here and we cover your booth, we cover your products, we work with your products. Do you realize the cost and everything that's involved for us to do this? Because we understand that there's an element of, if you work with us, we have to. provide for you, right? You send us a product, we actually have to do work with said product and all of this, but do you realize the cost of that work, right? Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's so many there's so many people out
The
there
cost
that
and
have
the value of it, brings you to.
yeah, there's so many people that utilize SHOT Show kinda as a vacation, right? And they go, they do media there, sure, they cover stuff and they do things. And there's so many creators out here that, they have a primary job, they're not
Mhm. Yeah,
retired or
this
they're
is
not
their
relying on
vacation
it or
and it's their
whatever. This is
family
a
reunion or get together for
yeah, the
whatever shoot the
creator
shit.
thing yeah, the creator thing is a secondary thing, and so, like,
And that's
being
an
able to
industry failure because since it's and that's one of my frustrations is like and that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, since media is a spare time thing or it's a hobby or it's a second job, a part-time job, it's never the focus of anybody's attention and it's always assumed that it's free, that you can just who cares? Because there's always somebody who's going to step in. There's always another retired guy with a camera. There's
uh-huh,
always some other house mom who's trying to get a second income and they're always going to be able to create a YouTube video. Now, the value of that YouTube video, and like you said, what they could be doing with that resource, I think that's worth a whole nother show uh, from the side of the attendee at Shot Show, or I should say the people who set
exhibitor.
up exhibitors at Shot Show. We already determined when we had people on. It's one of the byproducts of this series is we know now that $100 a month is what it takes most people to get to Shot Show. So somebody who wanted to sponsor a content creator at $100 a month, you're providing their transportation and stay at Shot Show for
Yep.
on the average. So that means with two sponsors at $100 a month, a content creator could go from amateur part time to serious hobby. And with three or four, they could potentially, well, it depends on the person, but with a couple of sponsors, you could potentially turn a channel that's happening because of circumstances to a channel that grows with intent. And yeah, you can observe and follow and watch the lottery or watch the sports game from the seats, or you can become a manager and you can become a coach and you can be specifically involved in the players.
Right.
And the industry has that opportunity and that role, and they've not taken the opportunity and they don't appreciate their role. And for as little as, when we're talking about advertising numbers, again, it works out to invest in content creation as a manufacturer rather on mass advertising and what returns that might get because the differences are hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars a month. So yeah, there's a lot of potential there from the exhibitor side of how to take advantage of the resources that SHOT Show makes available. And yeah, changing the industry with intent versus just watching or just taking stuff for granted and having things happen randomly. We're going off in tangents here, but I think somebody brought up a great question there.
Yeah, well, you have to get, also on Smeggy's thing too, is, I do seek, like some type of a relationship, with that company, right? And so, I would prefer to have, with most companies, that long going option and a long going relationship. And we've talked about it before. Sometimes that's hard to achieve with the turnover and employees and other things. Um, but where was I going with that? What was his question? Put it back up on the screen. Did you unstart?
Smeggy's thing, I lost it because it was way far away, but it was basically the knowing what you want out of the conversation, having a goal of the conversation.
Right. Um. Anyway, yeah, I lost. Yeah, I don't
And no
know. I
worries.
lost.
We're not scripted and we're not going, we're just
Yeah,
kind of
I
going
lost
with
my
it.
train of thought. It was like there was a couple things I was going to hit
Feel
on with
free to
that, but
interrupt if it comes back. So I think I put in here just to remind myself, but answer a question versus an intro thing. So again, if you want to set yourself apart as the content creator or offer something different to the booth or the manufacturer than the simple tour of the thing, like, hey, I had a lot of questions, like if the straps on here are the same as they are over there. I've had a lot of questions on the weatherproofing of this one, or is the magazine going to work in this one? So now if you go into a booth and have a specific question to be answered, that gives you an opportunity to unravel a whole different ball of strings. Like, oh, where'd you get this question? Oh, we have an online community I'm a big part of, or I'm on the so and so forums. I notice this question gets asked on all the forums. I go to all the different AK forums, and on all of them, this is a consistent question that nobody's addressed. So now you've showed that you care enough about their product and you care enough about the industry to address the specific question rather than come in and ask for free, which they're going to get a lot to compare to, or just come in and get a general booth review. So if you want to set yourself apart and offer value to the viewers, the community who may not know you, and the manufacturer, think about something as simple as answering a question to a common, well, answer a common question, I guess, as opposed to just being another view tour. I don't know if that helped Clover get his thing back to whatever cut off there. But then the next one from Smeggy is you can lead the conversation. What do you have to show off? Or you can let them lead the conversation. That's interesting. I didn't come up with a bunch of samples, but that's a great sample. If anybody wants to offer some samples, we can judge them. We'll judge your sample. Icebreaker, we'll judge your sample. I guess you get 200 characters on YouTube. If you're here live and you want to throw an elevator speech in, we'll start judging them. But what do you have to show off? You could literally just say that and get going. We've put in a lot of effort into introducing yourself and having an elevator speech that's either formal or kind of traditional. But on the other hand, in an industry event, I can 100% attest that you can just come up and go, "Can I get a video of this?" And they'll go, "Yep," and that could be everything, and you'd be done. So you don't have to do any of this. You can just go, "Can I video this?" And they'll be like, "Thanks for asking, yes," or else. I guess 1 out of 10 times or 1 out of 20 or 50 times, they'll go, "Nah, not that thing. You can video that or go away." But most of the time it's, "Yep, go ahead." Then they'll go, "Who are you then?" Like they don't care. They want video. They're video. We're so beyond the,
Right.
I mean, it's still, I think, 100% worth
Well,
asking,
I
but
think
we're
that gets
beyond them
into
worrying about it.
I think that gets into possibly what we were talking about earlier of do they realize, it's like they understand, like everybody's on social media, everybody has a phone, everybody they get all of that. And it's like why would they say no in most cases? I mean, somebody just randomly
Well,
who
it's
cares.
almost always ITAR, or like we
That's
don't want this
yeah,
our customer or our
like
competitors to know about this cut of this jacket or something. It's
like
almost always.
that's exposure for their stuff, blah blah blah, right? And so they don't have many reasons. There are a few, like you said, but they
And
don't have
just
many reasons
ITAR
to say
is
no.
the international trade and blah blah blah. So it just
Right.
means that some stuff like night vision or some things aren't allowed to be exported, and go beyond that, there's some other industry standards which require that they don't even offer anything other than very uh, pictures and images that are filtered, let's say, that don't offer any kind of detail or whatever. So because of that, they just, and usually they'll not have that stuff out. I mean, they're not idiots, but sometimes that stuff is around, especially like at
Yeah.
range day, or if you go to some other event, you might accidentally take a picture or something. But anyway, I'm getting into a little bit of a rare exception, but it is in our industry, it is a thing. And ITAR can be weird on like night vision or a vest or something that you just wouldn't think of.
Well, what I'm saying is the whole idea of if you walk in and do that, hey, can I film this? And they're like, yep. And they just turn around and walk off or whatever, or they may ask, you know, who are you or something. Um, but
And if
like
they ask
that,
who are you,
that
it probably is if
initial,
they want to know. Like they're going to get a lot
yeah,
of people who are just some Joe Bob from the gun shop, and they're going to let them video because they want to show their friend something.
yeah,
We
right.
could care
Yeah,
less. But if they go, well, that's interesting, or something about your something, maybe your badge holder makes them go, oh, this isn't a regular person. This person's badge holder tells me that this person is legit. This person's hat
right.
tells me that they're doing something. This the way that they're holding their camera, or the way that they took this thing and they got the shot show behind it, and then the way they're taking notes or something. Now they're going to come over and go, "What's up? What
Yeah,
did you get?
right,
Did you need another picture? Can I get you something?" You know what
right.
I mean?
Yep, yep.
Okay, so Ghost is saying just because your pitch doesn't work with company A doesn't mean it won't work for company B. I don't know if that's kind of going on with what Chief Hires was kind of talking about earlier, but
Right.
yeah, I would just also just insert like industry A instead of company, or like person A, because there's a lot of different variables there. You might get some guy who's I don't know, a lot of different types of personalities, but the jokey, pat you on the back type of person. And that person could be at any company, you know what I mean? And you might have a different speech for
Yeah.
that person rather than the I'm going to look at the ground and put my hands in my pockets type of person.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think it's more than the company, main company, be it has to do with the whoever you have to talk with at that company. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Because sometimes it's what's weird. Sometimes you'll hit it off really good with somebody from that company, and unless you pointed out earlier, that could be the CEO or the CFO, like a big dog with the company, right? And you've hit it off good, and you're having good conversation, and then they put you in touch with their media marketing, and that dude or chick is like a lump on a pickle. It's like, ugh, like we have no chemistry. It's just it's a totally different world trying to talk to that person than it was, the owner of the freaking company or the inventor of the thing or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, good lord, it's like pulling teeth talking to this person. And it's yeah, we're all individuals. We're all different, so it makes sense.
No, definitely add that, whatever you figure out as a strategy or a uh, tactic that gets around person's attitude, person's interest and abilities, or whatever skill set that you want to apply to others, because you're going to get these types of people. It's not so much anymore, but there's the people that hate technology, and there's still people that act like they hate technology, even though they're telling you that on an iPhone or whatever. But there's the that type, and then there's the type that's on the other side of the spectrum, at the other end of the bell curve, trying everything constantly new, and you're never going to appeal to the same words are never going to appeal to those two people. One person never wants to try a new thing online, the other person tries everything new online, right? You being a person who's aware of the different things online can barely keep up with the one, and you've got is like a zillion leashes to drag the other, right? Like you're looking for that person in the middle. So maybe that's the strategy too, is to, for your elevator speech, we kind of talked about it in other shows and in this show too, but don't go up to the new intern, and don't necessarily go up to the boss of the company, because neither one of them is necessarily going to be the one making the decisions in the middle. So read the company first, and then maybe even ask and say, hey, who's the person I need to talk to for this? Talk to that person. Now you're not, this was a thing back in the day, but you're not educating them on what YouTube is or what making a video can do for them. Now you're talking to the person who gets paid to understand all that, and you can get just right to the nitty gritty. I'm going to make 4 videos about this, and I'm not asking you for any money. We didn't put that anywhere in here, but unless you are asking for money, if you walk up to a booth and go, "Can I take a video?" and I'm not going to charge you for it, that's a thing. There's a lot of people that assume the other, that, hey, I'll take a video of this, and then we'll talk how much it's going to cost you after. Clover doesn't want to
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
that one because he charges too much when he takes a video.
Oh man, I know people like that. I know people that have that's another thing that you need to be aware. You need to do what you say you're going to do, and you need to make sure that, because there are companies out there that will be very hands off and very open when they work with you in what capacity, right? And don't get me wrong, I love those companies. I love those companies that send a product, or they'll sponsor, or they'll do something, and it's like, hey, we trust you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. Here it is. Here, whatever, you do your thing, right? And there's freedom in that. But you also have to be mindful of what both sides expect, right? I do know creators that have burned bridges with companies because they've taken a product and kept that product for 60 days, 90 days, something like that, whatever, put out no content. The company contact them and they go, oh, if you want us to actually release content with this, you're going to have to pay us X number of dollars, right? And the company assumed that, well, because I'm going to send you the product, and we didn't talk about anything, right? That there wasn't any cost involved. And so just make sure that, the agreements and everything else, that all the cards are on the table, right? You go down that avenue, you're asking those questions and whatever. Um, because you'll get, I know.
And then there's people that are like, you send me the binoculars, I'm going to do a video and sell them. And then you don't have to pay me nothing. I'm selling your binoculars. Everybody's happy. And then there's other companies that'll go, yeah, I'm going to send you the binoculars. You do a video of them. You're going to send them back. And then
Right.
there's companies that'll go, we're going to send you the binoculars. You do a video with them. If we like the video, we're sending you more binoculars and $200.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yep.
again, getting back to I think Smeggy's thing, like know what you want out of this,
Right.
and there's no rules. Like you can do whatever you want. Now you
Yeah.
go around saying I want $200 and another set of binoculars, and you're not paying off on that, then you might burn them and
Right.
you might kill them as a having any interest in the future.
Yeah.
Or you could surprise them. You could grow your channel into a binocular channel, and now you're getting night vision from 7 different places, and you're the go-to because you've got it figured out. You get the product, you do a fair review of it, you sell the product, and you move on. You're making your money by selling the product. You've given it a
Right.
fair review. You've created a massive knowledge base, and companies know that you're fair and you can work with you, and you're not doing some scheme or something. You
Right.
know what I mean? There's no rules. Do however you want, but well, the but is you got to put in the work. You got to find those companies and do all that stuff.
Yep.
Follow through on all
Exactly. Yep.
that. So Ghost says, no matter, do Bear say something? No matter what you say or how you approach companies, be confident who you are and what you bring to the table. If you aren't confident in yourself, they won't be confident in you helping them. Well, he's a Marine, so he's going to say stuff like that. But at the same time, if you want to get confident, go to SHOT Show and start doing stuff. I mean,
Yeah. That's true.
repetition, experience, and effort is what gets you to be confident.
Yep.
But yeah, it's
Well,
always
that
everything is
it's
difficult at first. Everything is difficult,
the support
and then
structure around you helps. There's a lot of things that help with that confidence level for sure.
Gizzard is out there. He says, "I'm a content creator. YouTube is just one of the tools in my toolbox." That's a great attitude for it.
Yep.
But you're also a voice for the Second Amendment. Gizzard is a community leader as well.
Yep.
So when we get to Smeggy saying, or when interviewing someone, ask them what they think the coolest thing is personally.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've
Yeah,
done that.
and some of that can break the ice, get an element that's not the norm. Can you tell me about your products? Can you give me a booth tour? It's different than can you show me the stuff you like best? Can you show me the best selling stuff? Can you show me the stuff that you didn't think would win? Can you show me the stuff that's made in the USA? I've gone to SHOT Show almost every time. I don't even look at stuff that's not made in the USA unless it's something I have to look at. But you can go around SHOT Show and show me. Can you show me the stuff that's made in the USA?
Yeah.
I'm a dick, right? I'm not going to say I ain't a dick. I've walked around SHOT Show one year when I was like, I'm going to get all the different stuff you can put in a safe. I had safe clients and I was interested in safes at the time. So I was going to go around and get all the different stuff you can put inside a safe. And I'd walk up to some place and go, hey, can you show me all the stuff that's made in the USA? And they'd go, well, and then I'd walk away. Because I don't care about burning bridges, stuff like that, because I'm a dick. But there's only one company that makes stuff in the USA that goes inside of safes, safe storage solutions or whatever it is out of Chicago. And all it is bending wire and coating it. So it's like bending some wire. Luckily, it's made in the USA wire. It's in Chicago, and then they coat it. But it's those little curvy, wiry things that you use to organize your safe. So you could just walk around going, "Hey, what's made in the USA? Hey, what's what gets issued to military? Like what is in a caliber other than 9mm? Like you could choose whatever criteria and ask them that. And now you're something different than everybody else who's walked in. Can I look at the new thing? Can I look
Yep.
at the new thing?
Yep. Specificity helps. Yeah. Exactly.
And if let's say it's a company, I don't know if there is one this year. Let's say CZ comes out with the coolest new grip angle of a 9mm this year, right? The new grip angle 1000. So the CZ grip angle 1000 is what everybody goes there and reviews. And you're the only review of the rest of the booth at CZ this year. Like who's standing out from the crowd?
Yep.
So in other words, like, the big companies have other product lines and almost
Well,
always it gets shadowed by whatever the new grip angle 2000 is.
yeah. So here's the issue that arises from that, and a lot of people don't think about it. So a lot of folks go at a SHOT Show, they want to cover or get hands on or whatever the latest, greatest, newest thing. Well, just because they have the latest, greatest, newest thing at SHOT Show doesn't mean they're even for sale yet. And I've run into this, and
Oh yeah, so marketing
anybody
would be
that's done it,
useless if it's 2 years out.
anybody that has done content and went to shows for any given length of time has, I'm sure, run into this. So if you go in there and you do the latest, greatest, newest thing, I agree with you, G. First of all, everybody is going in and doing that, right? So it's already like super saturated. But then on the flip side of that too, or same side of it, but different way of looking at it, is that product's not even for sale sometimes for a year, if it ever even hits the market, right? So why not do something that's established instead of doing the latest greatest if you cover the other lineup, or hey, what's in your current catalog type stuff, right? Well, that stuff people can go pick up if they like what they see your video, they can actually go purchase that today, right now. And they're not sitting around twiddling their thumbs, oh, I would like to do that if it ever becomes available. So from a value standpoint, when you're talking about the company, like I get it. I mean, they want the info out on the latest, greatest, newest released thing, and I understand that aspect of it. But all of their eggs are not in when you're talking about a company. Like legacy products or flagship legacy products are where it's at. I mean, that's what keeps the company going, not the latest, greatest, newest thing. Yeah, eventually the latest,
Yeah.
greatest, newest thing may become a legacy product, right?
Well, they
But
bring a 10 millimeter version out, but
yeah,
they also did two other improvements to their normal lines. And if they're only getting coverage of the one thing, they're
yep,
frustrated.
right, yeah, yep.
Okay, so then Woods brought up asked, how does including other platforms, wait, I don't know how that works, other than YouTube. So I don't know how it's supposed to say, but uh, how does it work maybe? Or what about including other platforms other than YouTube? We've hit at this already, but I wanted to hit this for sure because I think we kind of hit this, but the companies may value other platforms more or less than you do. So you're on GunTube. They understand that GunTube is for gun owners by gun owners and that it's a valid platform to be on. So they might go, "Oh snap, you're on GunTube. Didn't want to work with anybody from the internet this year, but since you're on GunTube, we're working together." Or I'm trying to get, my social media guy gal says we need to get our numbers up on Utreon, Rumble, whatever, right? Like Parlor, Truth, whatever. And you walk up and go, whatever, I'm on these platforms, or better. I wouldn't say that. That seems like a weird thing to say at all unless it's part of the conversation. And maybe having a business card that has all those logos on it, and you're giving that business card to the person, the media person, or the savvy enough person in the company that goes, "Oh, okay, you guys are on XYZ. We were trying to get work on there." Oh, good. It's good to know because I'd want to get content over there. So let's emphasize your stuff. Every single video of yours will go over there. We'll make sure, we'll tag you on everything that we possibly can over there when we're posting on there, help get your numbers up. Maybe we'll do a special live over there and tell people on the other platforms to jump over there to talk to this special live, and you can give us some exclusive content somehow over there. We'll talk about your new product first over there on that new platform, and we'll help you soup that up, right? I don't know. Do you want to riff on this one at all?
I know more than we did earlier. I mean, it's one of the biggest things when you start talking about alt platforms again is the some of the freedom and potential that you have over there from the standpoint of being able to drop links, be that affiliate links or even links to drive traffic to the company, right? Which is the
Mm-hmm.
overall goal of benefiting the industry and the company. And so,
They
that's
want footprint.
important.
They may or may not know that, but they want the biggest footprint as possible on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, oh, you may get hundreds or thousands of views on YouTube, but if you can't drop a link to that company's, people are lazy. Let's be honest. And so, could somebody watch a video on YouTube and go, "Oh, okay, xyzcompany.com. I get it." And the name of the company is XYZ, and they Google search xyz.com or whatever, right? Boom, and they're there. People are lazy. And sometimes they don't want to do that. It's hard enough to even get them to click a link, even if it's down in the description, right? So, that's one of them things to where you've got the opportunity to either create a specific video for that platform, where you can actively push the link, or if nothing else, upload the same video to that platform, and then you're able to actually put a link in the description. So while you may not get as many views over there, there's at least the potential to get some clicks through to the website, where you don't have that at all on YouTube. It doesn't matter if you're getting, you know, 100,000 views versus a couple thousand, right? It's like if you can't put a link, you're obviously not getting click throughs on the link. Now, could you potentially be driving traffic by people searching or whatever. Yeah, absolutely 100%. But there's no way to argue that if you can't drop a link, there's no way you're getting traffic from a link. So it's a better move, and I won't say it's a better move, but it's a great way to add diversity to your portfolio, right? Add diversity with what you can bring to the table.
All
And
right,
let
so
me
there's
let
two
me
things.
just
Oh,
and
go
let me
ahead.
just let me real quick say this because it's important for people wanting to get on these other platforms. So big, huge creators, they import or they have people that upload and they copy and paste. And I've seen this repeated. As a matter of fact, I seen it this morning. Um, they will upload the same exact video. Nothing wrong with that. But they'll upload the same exact video. They'll copy and paste the title. Nothing wrong with that. But then they'll copy and paste the description. And that's problematic because, like, the big YouTubers, it's expediency for them. They're just trying to get it up quickly on another platform to appease the people that hate big tech or whatever it might be. And so, and plus, it's another way for them to be out
Or
there,
it's just
right?
reflex. They can, so they do.
This is
They can
true too.
task an
Yeah,
intern with it,
yeah.
and they do. They don't care or no. They're just it's like
So
a gamble. Go for it.
they're not paying attention or spending the time, right, to change that description because they can, because that is allowed on that platform where it's not on YouTube, right? And so that's something that needs to be, like I said, stress if you're going to talk about the alt platform, that being a part of your portfolio, being a part of what you can bring to the table. Explain that aspect. Not digging on big gun tubers or whatever. I'm not talking about that, but explain the aspect of, hey, we can actually drop links over there, and that's one of the great things about, you know, providing a multi-platform approach, right? And then if that media person or whatever company remembers that, and they get home or later on or at lunch or in the hotel room or whatever, they get on their phone and they're digging around those alt platforms, they'll figure it out real quick. That, holy crap, a lot of people are phoning it in on these alt platforms, and they're not taking advantage of the whole purpose of them being an alt platform. It's not
Or they're
just
all in,
just
or they're
another
only
place.
on them, or they're only
This is
on that
true.
one, and then it's the opposite. But those people aren't
Yeah,
in
this is true.
competition at Shot Show. But
Yep. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, totally.
okay, so then I'm also going to say two things, and I put some notes to myself there, but actually three things now because she first said something. But backwards, yes, whatever everything you just said, but you're thinking you're looking at humans all the dang time. You're talking to humans about what humans do, but the internet is robots and spiders, and it's mathematical equations. Al Gore made a
Yep.
beautiful mathematical thing for us.
Yep.
So half of the battle is humans. The other half, and we could debate probably on where it's actually. Let's just say half for now, because there's the two sides of this coin. Which one has more importance is different for different people's awareness, I guess, or what your intent is, I guess. But anyhow, there's the other side. So having a link in whether or not that's okay with terms of service on the platform is important because that's a factor. But the result or the consequence of having those links out there is what I keep calling footprint or reach or
Right.
size of your influence on the internet, not just YouTube or whatever. Now it'll help on YouTube because it's reciprocal, but let's say that company A has a product and it's linked to YouTube videos, and then you've got company B and they've got a product. I should have said, let's say company A has a product that's linked to 200 YouTube videos. That exists on the internet in one way. Now you've got another company and their product is linked on 200 platforms once. And then you've got somewhere in the middle, some company with a different product that has, 10 platforms, but 20 videos on each platform. So the same number of instances all on one platform, completely distributed or seeded, right? Distributed in
Yep.
in in different levels and different platforms, either strategically or just randomly, and both work. All these are different tactics, but some of them are achievable and some of them are ridiculous. So having a link on every platform may or may not be better than having all your links on one platform. Now, there's a lot of people who would say if all your links are on the biggest platform, you can't lose because all your links are on the biggest platform until something happens and a switch gets turned, and now you have to
Yep.
start from scratch. If you're on every single platform and a flips gets switched,
Well, unless you're a robot and you've got a billion people on your crew and you need the income to support a bunch of people on your crew, you're not paying enough attention to any of those platforms to be useful on any of those platforms. You're just there. So being
Right.
there is different than using the platform. So if you have two or three platforms and you're heavily present on all of them and you're interactive on all of them and one switch gets flipped off, you're able to you've got a three-legged, four-legged stool and a lid gets kicked out, you can still stand up. It's a little wobbly, but you can fix that fourth leg again. So with that, I wanted to throw that
Yeah.
out there. You've got this other aspect that if you're not building what you are, your presence online and not on a platform, then you're not doing yourself a service. And when you've created that, when you have a presence on the internet, you bring that to people and you let them know what you're bringing to them, and you're better than the person who's just happens to be a fad on the platform right now. And
Right.
people that don't appreciate that hate to hear this. They won't accept what I'm saying right now. But being a fad on a platform is temporary. Creating something permanent is has value, and I'm not going to say it has more or less value because it's up to the person who's creating the value there. But they can, if they're just going to listen to the marketers, they're going to go with whatever fad at the time and ride the biggest wave or whatever. It's great if you've got the resources to support that, but to being able to be the person on the giant creator on the biggest fat platform requires infrastructure and cost. So you're going to pay for that. It's not free. And they also value what they've created and done. So they're going to charge for that. And most of them want to go on vacation and you're paying for really elaborate stuff, big studios and equipment. On the other side, you've got people who are actually involved in the other platforms and they're doing it like we talked about earlier as a side job or a hobby. They're doing it because they care so much, or they're just happy to be part of it. But they're doing it on tiny little budgets and
Right.
tiny uh, resources compared to the bigger stuff. But anyhow, so that's layers to uh, uh, using the other platforms to the internet's strategies, not just the humans who's going to watch what. So, yeah, there's views and there's what humans are going to do and how many phone calls come in, but there's the effort that you do to create a footprint on the internet. And that's what results in all those phone calls and stuff. And
Right.
how do you, there's strategies. You put a blue link over here and a red link over here and a purple link over here, and they say, I came from the purple link, you know, then you kind of can help determine, make use of that strategic effort, but that's a whole nother topic. But then the other side of it is, what did I put in here? I guess it's the other videos too. No, other content methods. So we've been talking about YouTube. Keep in mind that when we're saying other platforms, there's blogging. You are doing a podcast. You just don't know it yet. You can take the audio out of whatever you do, and it's a podcast, literally. Whatever you do, take some stills and go to your transcript, click the three little dots on YouTube and pull your transcript down, edit it, put in some still photos from your video, and you've created a blog post. So you are doing these other things. You just may not be following through on them. But think about other platforms as other types of content. People read and people listen as much, if not more, than they watch. The people who watch are younger, shorter attention span, right? And you need, those are customers, but you also have older, longer attention span people who are in vehicles and listening to an entire podcast. That's a whole nother realm of
Yep.
reach that companies don't necessarily think of when the giant YouTube, successful YouTube person comes up and says, YouTube is all there is. So work with us because we're going to be the biggest on YouTube.
Yep.
Okay, that was a lot to reply to that one. I don't know if you want to riff on any of that. Definitely into this, but we didn't do it last week. So unless Clover's got something to do, I guess we'll keep going.
Yeah. Let's go.
So let's see. What was She Fire saying that let's see. I plan on scoping out the targeted company's website or new or interesting products as a conversation starter, right? So I think what I was saying is watch the videos about the product. So let's say the targeted company is selling you're a lady, so a small pocket revolver, a 38 special pocket revolver, which is of course what you're going to be going to YouTube to look, or going to SHOT Show to look for. So somebody's going to come out with this new uh, ladies edition of the revolver, the 38 special revolver, And there's been, let's say they've got, just to make it easy, they've got 10 characteristics of this revolver, and there's been 5 videos posted that only cover 8 of the characteristics. So if you can show up and ask about those other 2, kind of going back to what Clover said with the other product lines, like if they know what's being featured out there, and they might be frustrated because they keep trying to bring up the grip angle, but nobody asks them about it because they're all worried about if it's got a red dot or whatever. So,
Right.
like that's something else. Just look at what their competition, look at what else has been said about it, is all I was saying. As you're researching the website, also research what other people have been saying about it.
Yep.
Because you'll see holes, you'll see what's missing. Also,
Right.
so Ghost says part of the conversation could be to ask if they have plans during the week for dinner, et cetera. You never know how that goes. Yeah, that's interesting. There's definitely parties and off air or off campus type of things that are going on, range days and things at the indoor ranges and stuff. And I guess getting fed for free, or if you're a drinker, lots of drinking being done.
Right.
I don't know if I'd think. I mean, I'm just not much of a drinker, so I don't hang out with. It seems to me like there's probably a lot of stuff getting done when everybody's sloshed, but since I don't get sloshed with them, you know what I mean? Like I'm just the guy standing there drinking a beer or whatever, not getting all plowed. But I just don't see the odds. Like I don't see the numbers. I guess it might be going on, but then you got to pretty much be there getting plowed with those people at the right time. If you're not, you could book out of there and book to some other place, and actually get there because you're not all drunk. So anyway, so as far as eating though, I don't know. Here, we haven't really talked about this. Have you followed the Instagram Shot Show on Instagram?
I don't spend a whole lot of time on Instagram.
Oh, okay, because I keep posting stuff or linking to you and saying, "Oh, we should talk about this." So one of the things that, because I've been paying more attention to it for whatever reason this year than I have for the last 18 years, because it's kind of been
Right.
fluctuates between good and bad, or I'm interested or not, or whatever. But they do a Shot Show after dark now. So you did get over to the new building, and I
Right.
asked before, but you didn't get out to the entrance where the monorail drops down and where the
No, I never went out that way. No, I mean
okay, so
I was close, but I never actually went out there. No.
now I know there and there, how if you come in from the other shots, the normal place, and you come across that bridge, and if you just walk straight and you just kept walking straight, you go past those 3 or 4 rooms on the left and the 2 big rooms. But then if you kept walking straight, I think you'd go out a door or something, it seems like, right? Like there's some other door or something there. I didn't walk out that far either. But I don't know if that goes out to this patio also, or if it's just the main door. You'd have to take a right and go underneath the Ferris wheel. But definitely that door by the Ferris wheel, like the other entrance, the new entrance. If you go outside there and walk around to the south side of the whatever the new McCormick building is called or whatever it's called, what's the name of the new one? Kennedy, or whatever the name of the new building is, right? Like if you go to the south side of that, there's effectively a giant parking lot that you can't park in. Like it's just a big blacktopped area or something with a fence around it, almost like the place where they park the trucks during the show, like all the equipment gets parked kind of staged. But there's a clear area of it, kind of like the beer garden is, except probably it seems to me like 6 times larger than the beer garden is, the existing dock that they've turned into a beer garden in the last few years. So you know what I'm saying? Like outside of the other building, there's this
Right.
giant outside area, and they're going to open that up at night, and there's going to be booze. I'm assuming like it is in the beer garden, you pay for the booze, but it's there, and then a place where like an intentional meet and greet, like an intentional get together and have casual finger food and drink, and interact. Like here you go. You don't have to go to off-site places and try to figure out which ones. And looking at the pictures can only be from last year. There's no way Shot Show staged a bunch of pictures and hired actors. You know what I'm saying? Like the pictures have to be from last year. It was massive. It was as big as the biggest parties I've ever been to, plus maybe bigger. And I was like, okay, one, all the parties got whaled on. So maybe that was the only option. I don't know. I wasn't really doing anything last year. Two, I mean, as far as parties go, I didn't go to anything last year. Or two, people just haven't ever been to those parties, don't know how to get invited to them. It's not cool to be invited to some party that nobody knows about anymore, because that was sort of the thing back in the day. You got to go to these parties for reasons, and nobody got invited to them for reasons, right? Well, that's sort of like the old boys club or like the whatever they call that. maybe that's just that element of SHOT Show is dwindling, and this new option is going to be what the hipsters and the the new breed appreciates. So if you haven't seen the pictures, then if this is all new to you, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but what do you think? Do you think it's possible for SHOT to create or to engineer an after hours event that's less structured, but also at the same time way more accessible?
Oh, I totally think it will be. Yeah.
Because that seems super cool. So I kind of want to hang out at one of those at least, and then.
Yeah, I just don't know because
see
it
how they
talks
go.
about what am I thinking? The cost or whatever with all of that.
Oh yeah, it's not free. It's $75 or something.
Yeah.
But it's $75 for like 3 of them. So it's like $25 a night. I think it's a no-brainer if you got a booth there. Somebody's going to get tasked with going to it. Like who wants to go to a party, and do work after? And somebody will do it because you don't have to go anywhere.
Right.
Okay, so then the next one is Gizzard. We're down to 4 or 5 left. So Gizzard says, and don't discount the value of a good still picture. Oh, he says it too. So you can use Instagram, etc., to promote a product as well. Be sure to tag the company and make the picture show the product in the best light. I mean, in good lighting, and also like it doesn't like show somebody beer puking on it or something, right? But no, it's a great point. I think that's what I was saying before too. Is I was saying blogs and podcasts, but Gizzard's 100% pictures. Like I know people literally who Instagram's their only thing, and they are huge, like giant entities. They can do whatever they want just from Instagram, and they come and go really fast. Instagram has a different level of appreciation than YouTube or blogs or podcasts and stuff. But I don't know. You don't really use Instagram so much. What do you think about stills though?
Yeah, I mean, there's a place for stills. I mean, you got to realize there's a place for stills in any social media or whatever. So, yeah, 100%. Even
Yeah,
in your
you really,
B-roll,
it'd be foolish.
B-roll use of stuff and whatever. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I was thinking thumbnails. Like it'd be foolish to think you're going to pull stills out of your video. I mean, you can, it's possible, but I think it's still like smarter to take a bunch of stills, set up stills for your thumbnails and stuff. Say just for any social. Yep. Smeggy says your goals for the conversation. Yeah, I think that's the next one. Goals for the conversation will change depending on who you're talking to. There's no way you can be longtime partner with every booth you look at. Oh yeah, for sure. And I think you need to have discretion, right? You have to have that characteristic or that trait because you be willing to be discouraged, right? Like, oh, I thought I was going to work with this company. Now I don't want to. There was a company who, I'm trying to be nice about this. There's a company who makes plastic goods. I think that's vague enough. And I thought I wanted to work with them because they're USA made. And I tend to like things that are made in the USA. And one year they had a plastic thing that had a point. I don't want to be too specific because that might give away who it was. But they make things typically that don't have points on them. They made a thing this year for a specific thing. I don't want to say what it was because I think it might give it away. But they made a thing that happened to have a pointy end. And I was literally not even, I was in the aisle. I can't remember specifically anymore, but I think I was looking this way. And they were behind us having a conversation loud enough that me and Greg, one of the guys, was both heard this. And they said a racist piece of shit that I'm like, oh, holy shit. Like, people ask me if there's any racism in the industry. Like, I guess it's possible that I'm not seeing it or whatever, but there's nothing blatant or nothing. There's no like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, except for them people or something. Like, I'm not aware of any of that shit. If anything, it's like the opposite. Right. This was in 2008. No, Greg was there. So 2010 probably.
Yeah.
So first year at Sands, downstairs probably. That's why we were so close together. I mean, fuck that company. I mean, seriously. Like, I was like, are you fucking serious? That was said loud enough for people to fucking hear? And I fucking looked at him and said, fuck you, and walked away or whatever. But like, anyhow, I don't know, I was getting off on there. But there's no way you're going to partner with everybody. I guess that was it. Like you're going to have to get discouraged. You're going to have to be willing to get your hopes down and be like, fuck, I really wanted to work with them, but there's no fucking way. And again, I don't know anything about the company, if that was just an employee or if that was what the design of the thing really was or something.
Yeah.
But I'm like, fuck, that was bad. So people are like, oh, you're a dick or whatever. Yeah, I'm a dick, but I don't care. Like, I'm not going to work with some people. Somebody's got to go.
Well, and working with companies, that's another thing too. Is you got to a little bit of tact involved with things, because working with some companies could potentially hinder you working with others. There may be a company that you really want to work with, and you haven't had that opportunity. But then there's another company that does similar things, right? And so they are willing to work with you. So you work with them, and inadvertently you don't realize it, but that's because you're already working with them. That kind of hinders your ability to build on that relationship, or whatever, with another company. I mean, there is got to realize you're dealing with a lot of companies that compete, and so there are certain companies that, depending on how you tailor your content, okay, yeah, you can navigate that pretty easy, because you're like, okay, well, company A has this little feature that is good for this particular section of people, and then company B has, this particular feature or perk that's a little bit different, and then so it's appealing over here, and so it's a shifting demographic type situation with those. But you do get companies that, if another company makes anything even remotely in that realm, they view it as competition, and so they had rather work with somebody who's never worked with that company over there or whatever. It's almost like they don't want the comparison. I have run into that before, because you would think that would be a strong suit. Like, hey, you've come out with this particular product, and I'm a big fan of those products, and I have every one ever made, and this, that, and the other. And you think that would be a plus, like the company would be like, okay, this person could actually give us some useful feedback. Whether you're making videos to be public with it, or whatever, that's a conversation that can be had. But if nothing else, this person can work with our product alongside 8 others, and they're a fan of these, so they obviously are competent and comfortable and knowledgeable about all this, and they understand it. That can be of great value. So, okay, let's work with you and work on some stuff like that. And you think that would be a no-brainer. That's like, okay, that's a benefit, but some companies don't see it that way.
Sorry about that. Let's see. So, am I cutting in, or is that a good place to go to the next one?
Oh, you're good. Let's go.
Smeggy says the next few weeks, or Ghost is saying to Smeggy, the next few weeks of his live show, they're going to on Tuesday shows, are going to be industry people talking about their side of shot. Where's the other one?
Yep.
So I don't know if you know. I'm assuming you're going to be on those shows.
I should be. Yeah.
He said in there, but I didn't highlight them.
But I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, from one show to the next. Yeah, that's his show. I just.
Oh, okay.
I'm just along for the ride, man. So like.
Let's see. Then Ghost also says so Ghost will be having his shows on Tuesday evenings, and he's going to be having people on that he knows from the industry talking about SHOT Show from the exhibitor side. Then he also said if you've got patches, don't be afraid to put something in their booth. Ask them, but it's a great way to be remembered. Yeah, so patches aren't cheap. They're going to cost you somewhere between, nowadays, is that place still the same? $2? So you can get them as low as $2. But I mean, what's a business card? Something. So incrementally bring, if you're going to be wanting to create a channel and get remembered and to get the message out there, is it worth dropping every time you drop one, $2 or $3? I guess it's up to the person. It's too late now. They take months and months to get in order and everything, but could you get magnets? I don't know if magnets have the same kick. They probably have some residual though, but depending on what the product is too, something that has a toolbox featured in the branding or whatever, and you get a magnet on that toolbox. But having it on like a panel or a jacket or a bag or a armor plate or carrier or something like that. Uh, and people the whole week are taking pictures of that stuff with your patch on there. If you've got that kind of relationship, or it's that kind of a booth.
Yep. Yeah, that can be fun. You can do a lot of different things with patches specifically, but yeah, you drop them here and there or whatever, and then randomly somebody takes a picture, posts on Instagram and or wherever, and actually tags you. Can be fun.
Goes saying, you think Shot needed to create an after hours event? Yeah, I think that was. I don't know if it would have worked in the past when they had what they've got, because there's no outdoors, and who's going to walk into Shot, walk all the way across that building, to hang out in that dinky little beer garden at night? Because they're not going to just let you walk
Well,
off the ramp and go into the street. So they're going to make you walk all the way back through Shot and out the front door. That would have been horrible. But when you can just be dropped off and be right at the event, you can literally leave the event, walk out to the second entrance and get a Uber, or just literally walk onto that tram or whatever, the overhead thing, the monorail.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing, and it's huge, and there's going to be already a bunch of people there, so it's not like they're conning people into showing up like, please, please, please. Instead, it's like, hey, it's already been successful, so show up here or go to one of your after events.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know, you have a different experience with the after events. I've been to a lot of them, and I have not been to a lot of them because I don't like a lot of them. But I don't know, I don't want to say the name of the ones, but have you been to ones that are provided by a single company? And
Yes.
it's sort of let's all fluff each other up, and let's
No.
like say thanks to our favorites and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I've never been to really anything like that. I've been to ones by single companies, and I've been to ones that are collaborations of companies. But all of the ones I've been to are very, very laid back. It's just more about getting to know each other, casual type stuff. I mean, they'll have some of their products there, of course, right? I mean, that's kind of why they do that in a way. So, and they're free to talk about. They'll certainly talk about their products and stuff if you're interested. But you could also talk about them in a different capacity, in a different light. It's a much more candid conversation, and it's more about really getting to know each other and getting to know the people. So, the ones I've been to, I guess, are much more intimate. And I don't want to say that it's not like it's you're sitting at a candlelight dinner with somebody, right? Don't want to, not that type of intimate, but it's just it's not really. None of them were really flashy or anything like that as far as a party or an after event or get together or whatever. Heck, the ones that Shot Show, they're after nightlife events or whatever they're talking about this year. Um, Look even more involved than some of the parties I've been to, um, but I valued the conversations and a lot of the other stuff from those as well.
Damn, when you said that, okay, there's get-togethers and then there's parties. Like when I'm talking Shot Show parties, I don't mean like, hey, let's meet at our hotel room or let's all go to this bar and hang out.
No,
I'm
right.
talking.
Yeah.
I've never seen such
Scheduled
elaborate
events.
parties except for like on fake movies and shit. But I'm talking when the big thing was happening, the big stuff was happening. And I'm not going to I don't know if it still happened. I guess it's technically still happens. But a lot of the giant companies were making a lot of money and they really enjoyed life. So the ones I've been to have been as elaborate as a mini bike. Most of them had a mini bike. Some of them had other options, but some sort of a mini bike with a chariot behind it. And then everybody role playing with cosplay and cloaks and whatever they're called, togas and swords and stuff. And then at a dirt bike track in Vegas after hours, they own the whole place. And then people would go up to a place and get buckets of like cabbage and tomatoes and stuff, soft vegetables effectively that were rotten and gross. And then they would go up into the stands, and every time the guys would come by with their chariots and their motorcycles. So one guy would be dressed as a horse or a pony or whatever, driving the motorcycle. The other guy would be dressed as a gladiator and a chariot behind it, and they'd be wailing on each other. And I'm talking dudes who probably might have been at some point doing this for real, like smashing on each other and just having a great time plowing into each other and smashing into each other and fixing the bikes and the chariots along the way, while everybody in the stands, which is plenty of people, were winging rotten vegetables and shit at them. And like that was the main event for a party that lasted all night, where everybody got a toga as they came in, and there was like a giant tent full of meat, a giant tent full of vegetables and fruit, a giant tent full of bread, like giant tents full of drink and stuff to have fun with. Nothing cost a dime. And I mean, craziness. And that's just one. I mean, every year it gets crazier and crazier with companies that are making good money and enjoy life. So we're talking events that I can understand why people go to SHOT Show for the parties. And some parties are happening at scale. Other people who don't get invited or can't participate are like, well, we got massive resources, so why don't we try this, or why don't we start this? And then you got other parties that are trying to attempt to be like that. Parties are amazing. And then there's get-togethers, which I call non-produced, I guess, right? Like non-production value, where it's just get-togethers. And there's tons of those. They've been going on, ebbs and flows, patterns and whatever, like, fluctuating as how big or how many or who's creating them. None of them that I'm aware of has continued the whole time I've been going, for sure. But more than, man, I'm trying to think of what the lifespan of an after event is. Probably the biggest ones have been going as long as I've been going, I guess. But I mean, some of them lasted for 10 plus years, but they're all gone now. I mean, a lot of them have just changed drastically, not because of shots thing, but just all kinds of changes in the world. But and I'm assuming I can't know of all of them. There's no way I know of all of them. I just know of certain elements of them. But I can't imagine rodeo people or competition shooters. I mean, competition shooters tend to let their hair down once in a while, right? They probably have massive things that I'm not aware of, or I'm just not paying attention to. Every single military thing does their own thing. I'm only aware of a couple. So, like I said, there's industries and stuff. There's a lot of people in Vegas, and they all got time off, and they all want to let off steam, and they all want to get together with their friends. So anyhow, and then you've got all the levels of get-togethers of, buying out a restaurant on an impromptu thing to let's all go to some bar and hang out and kind of take over the bar for a while. So I guess describing all that is neat. We've talked about that in other shows, but the reason I was kind of riffing on all that was to say, isn't there opportunity for elevator speeches at any of these places? And then, yes, right? And then what's that elevator speech like compared to the elevator speech you're using during the day? Like, you've got to have a pretty big, full trapper keeper to keep up with the circumstances that you're going to end up with at SHOT Show. Are you already doing your thing for something else?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I can add.
Well, I guess just the idea that there's different elevator speeches, because you're still going to be introducing yourself to people. It's a little different when you're introducing them to each other and somebody's spilling a beer over your head, or there's something happening in the background that you don't want to take pictures of.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, and then you meet somebody at certain. I mean, it's Vegas too. Like I'm saying, there's been some parties where nobody's talking about them. I'm not even talking about them, and those are ones where you meet somebody there, and you're like, oh well, I guess I know where you're at, and you know where I'm at, and this is where we met. So for the rest of the time, like, this is where we met.
Right.
So let's see. Smeggy's saying, does anyone know any TV troubleshooting? My TV just lost a picture, but it sounds fine if I turn it on and off. It displays for 2 seconds, then goes black. The specifics to that is, there could be a couple of different specific things, but definitely what I'm going to recommend for anybody, and the reason I brought this one up, if it's your refrigerator, if it's television, if it's your blender, if it's your puppy, you can go to internet and say, how do I fix be specific, model number, blah, blah, blah. And you might get a troubleshooting sheet with all the different kind of situations that model could have, or just like some kind of troubleshooting forum. But most people that are in the business have conversations amongst themselves that you can discover online and listen to the pros talk to each other about the most effective way to solve some things. And then you've got places like Reddit and just technical people that are, open source and just telling you about stuff. So I've had a TV, both of my TVs. I only own 2 TVs, and they're both hand-me-downs because of the situation you're talking about. There was a wire that went around a piece of metal, and when that metal got hot enough from the TV being on long enough or something, like, it would melt the insulator on the wire and eventually short and all it did was short out the LED lead or something. Because a big screen TV is just a shit ton of LEDs that brighten up a piece of plastic. So it can get hot, and all I had to do is listen to something online, and it said, drill a hole here, like take this wire and move it around the other side of this piece of metal so it doesn't touch the metal anymore, and plug it back in again. And I did that, and both the TVs were about that simple to fix, and they work fine. So it could be that simple, and it's just, do a search online.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fun stuff. I fixed my refrigerator that way one time.
I fixed a couple of TVs in the past. Now, say a couple, quite a few actually, with capacitors that would just get old, and whatever would happen, they would swell, they would leak, And I mean, you order a package of 10 capacitors, and I mean, I think it was like $5 or something to order a package of 10 capacitors, and I maybe have 2 or 3 of them left, and I've probably fixed 2 or 3 TVs with them. And it's just, I mean, that simple. If you're comfortable with soldering or whatever, it's not difficult. It's pretty easy.
It's not like a moving part. It's just a part that gets worn out from its chemical, whatever reaction or something that's taken place.
Yeah, dirty power surges. There's a lot of different things that can cause that, right? And so what'll happen is with those capacitors, they'll over time they'll swell, and so the resistance, and you're talking about, I don't know the technical details of all of it, right? I can't get into all of that, but I just know that over time, yeah, there are things that affect them, and you can visibly look at them and tell. You can visibly tell they're swollen, or visibly tell that they're leaking or whatever. And if that's the case, it's pretty easy to spot them and replace them. And a lot of times I'll just replace them all. Like, if there's 4 of those capacitors, you know what I mean, on that TV.
Like one might be blown, but the other 3 are right there anyway.
It's like, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace, this daughter board, because one of the TVs I worked on had 2 different daughter boards, and so each one of those had 2 capacitors, and so one of them was swollen bad, and so I was like, okay, I'll just replace all 4, because I mean, what are the odds another one is going to go bad and I got to replace, crack the TV open and do all this again? So it's like, while I'm in here, how long does it take to solder in 3 extra capacitors? So we'll just do that, and that didn't have a problem. I mean, it eventually died years later, and I never could troubleshoot it and figure out why. But I got extended the life by years for less than $5.
All right. So with that, I think, well, we've gone 3 hours. It's the week between Christmas and New Year's, so hopefully a bunch of people were looking for something to listen to anyway. Hopefully, again, this is not too long a format to be useful for people that are going or planning on going, because this should be, it'll die out eventually, or it'll wear out eventually, get stale, but it's just probably work in 2024. It probably would have worked last year. So hopefully our ideas here, some of the stuff that we replied to the people who've been asking questions, are useful. And I mean, that's always the danger, I guess, when you get too long format a thing. If I had interns, if I was doing this right, we'd chop this up, turn it into the pieces that were useful, edit them up, probably a lot of ums and ahs, but then, chop the question and the succinct answer into a separate video, list those somewhere with a playlist. So ideally on a website somewhere, maybe even turn them into not necessarily a course, but, a list of the different topics about SHOT Show. That would be ideal, So if anybody wants to help with that, well, thanks for Fires throwing $20 at us with a super chat, as I was saying. But I was going to say, I didn't even put it up here, but both of us have Patreons, the ways that you can subscribe to our projects, what we do, by going over to a Patreon, which is a social media platform, and subscribing to our channels. And you can do that on, I think, both of ours for a couple of dollars. I like to say a cup of coffee or so each month. Every once in a while, a couple of people buy me lunch each month. All that accumulates. I have right now about 120 something people that subscribe, and that turns into enough resource that I don't need to, try to, promote grip angles or red dots each show. And Again, there's lots of stuff that's happening over there. We're talking about YouTube, we're talking about live events, but there's photographers over there. There's people doing other creative things, people creating music or creating art, people creating like chapters of books or pieces of history, and or looking back at history. Uh, that stuff that wouldn't necessarily bring a lot of attention or views to be useful for the whole advertising, the typical advertising recipe. So by subscribing to an individual, you make things possible that wouldn't normally be economically viable. And I think it's a cool way to move the whole internet along. I've been a big fan of this for a while. We could probably have other discussions about it, but since we're 3 hours in, I'll just riff for a second that I really like the idea of an internet that's uh, structured so that the participants can uh, put their resource towards what they appreciate. And I think an industry version of Patreon is still, I don't want to say it's necessary, but I think it would be a valuable resource. I don't know if you want to riff on that at all. We're 3 hours into this.
No, I mean, we've moved more and more that way. I mean, engagement with people, right? I think that's why you see the YouTubes here that has evolved the way it has, especially with the community tab. I mean, the community tab is a very powerful tool. If you're a creator out there and you're not using it, you need to use it. And it increases the level of engagement and stuff that you're able to have. Um, a lot of the big names and stuff, they don't really utilize their community tab. They don't really utilize comments and different things. They may post some affiliate links from time to time, or share one of their videos from time to time, but they don't think about posting to things outside of YouTube. They don't talk about promotion of other organizations or creators or other things, or just creating a conversation and engaging with the community that way. So yeah, that's all I've got to add to it.
Let's see. So I think we're open for next week, assuming we're going to still have a show next week. I don't think we had anything. I was wanting to do a chat with people that have been there for a while. I don't know if we need to do. Let me look at a calendar. Just kind of thinking vaguely that next week is the beginning of the year, right? So next week is the 3rd. I don't know. Is that too close to any holidays to invite people on? Does shot start on the 17th? So we have 2 shows until the end, or until the show. I think it is the 17th.
Yeah, shot is, well, yeah, I think maybe it's the 17th.
It's either the 17th or 24th.
Yeah, race day's the 16th. So yeah, so we've got 2.
Dang, 2 more shows. So I guess we better start thinking about inviting people on who've been to SHOT Show before. So maybe we'll do that next week, the 3rd.
And then industry, yeah.
Well, Ghost is going to have a bunch of people on from industry, so I'm not going to attempt that. I don't even know that many people anymore. The people I know, honestly, who were in the industry was back when I was making videos. Like, I don't really talk to industry other than saying hey to people I know, which is fewer and fewer. I only talk to media people and 2A people. I definitely go. Last year, I went for sure, for the 2A to, I want to say, like, encourage and what's the word, like, help out the 2A people that were there. And I don't know if I had much, success in that or not. But anyway, I don't really know that many industry people, so I'll let Ghost. I don't know. Are you planning on doing anything else for SHOT Show before SHOT on your channel? I mean,
I don't really have anything now. No. I'll probably do some. I'll probably cut a video or 2 on some things I want to see or companies or something. But outside of that, no, I don't have anything planned. I mean, we had this going, and I knew Ghost was going to do some stuff, so it's like, man, there's plenty of others that are going live and doing things, so I'll just be a part of theirs, and that fits. I don't got to interrupt my live, podcast season schedule and all that. So that's one of the wonderful things about having a community and other people around. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, I don't because I wasn't listening. I was over here. Come on, where's the place for me to put a comment? I got ripped off. I was over there. I just dropped $20 on Clover and Ghost's sticker deal, where they've got for $10 you grab a sticker. It's numbered. You can frame it if you want. Use it as a dartboard, whatever you feel like doing with it. Bring it to SHOT Show. Well, I'm assuming they're going to send them out before SHOT Show, but do what you're going to do with it. But you got the sticker, but you also get an entry into a deluxe prize package or two. So because we just got a couple more super chats, I figured I'd bounce some of that over to Clover, and I guess Ghost is going to hoard some of it. But I wanted to say, I'll just tell you guys, since you didn't, I didn't find a place during the transaction in PayPal to leave a comment, and I used the PayPal button for what it's worth. So anyway, I couldn't leave a comment, but I was going to say make one. I bought two this today right now. Make one of them Chris and one of them She Fires. See what I'm saying? So I bounced the super chat over to the stickers, and I'm saying claim one to She Fires and claim one to Chris.
Okay, do the entries for Chris and Shiva. Okay, yeah. And yeah, that's one thing you can do. Just let us know. Let's shoot us an email or text or social media DM or whatever. It's like, hey, donate, the entries to whatever to so and so, and we'll make it happen. And we've had quite a few people do that. So kudos and big thanks to the people that have done that, because that is, that's insane that people are doing that. I mean, we've got some people that have donated like 5 entries to people that are unaware. Those people, some of the people have gotten entries that gotten extra entries. They've already bought a sticker and got an entry, right? And so they've got extras because people donated. But then there's some people that haven't even bought stickers. So I don't know that they're even aware that it's going on, or maybe they just can't afford to, or maybe they don't want to, whatever reason. But it's interesting because they actually have entries. So um, it's possible a name comes up and somebody wins that had no clue what was even going on. I mean, it's possible, right?
Tony Simon has a thing going until just the end of the year. A deal for this. I forget these call it like a shield of freedom or something, and it's a piece of wood, fancy wood that is. I think he said it was laser engraved, right? Or laser CNC'd, or not laser CNC'd, but CNC'd, or I think he said it was CNC'd. But it's the various logos from all the different firearms manufacturers laid out on this round piece of hardwood, so that it resembles like an Aztec calendar, Aztec, I don't know what those things are called, but like sort of a piece of art. But if you look at it, instead of just being a bunch of dudes poking snakes or whatever they did, it's a bunch of logos, like all the different companies' logos. And I guess they've done a couple of these. They're pretty cool, for hanging up in like a gun room or something. And same kind of thing, $10 per. His will end on the 29th, I believe, right? Or the 30th or whatever. Or maybe he said the 20th. No, I'm thinking of the 29th. That's his last diversity shoot. I think it ends on the 31st. All right. So with that, we'll wrap this one up. Another 3 hours about SHOT Show. A lot of people blow off SHOT Show. They take it for granted. They don't put that much effort into it. They think of it as a burden or a hassle. And then other people look forward to it and see it as the opportunity it is. So we appreciate the people that stick around to hear our enthusiasm about it. And feel free to leave comments if you've been listening on the podcast someplace or here on YouTube. Leave some comments, and we'll guess what, we'll be talking about SHOT Show more. And then I'm one to talk about it all year long. So we use it as a catalyst to talk about our content creation or the industry as a whole, how to bring up the important things into the big conversations. And we haven't really talked about 2A at SHOT Show this year. I wonder if that should be a topic. All right,
Probably.
Well, 3 hours in, it's not going to be. So with that, thanks everybody for joining. I'm going to throw a commercial to our gWebsite store. If you want to grab something, we've got some new products over there. And that's the way that we're able to stay doing what we're doing as well.
gWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at gWebsites.com.